Googling is StreamYard down. Oh, no, here we are. All right. Hello. Welcome to the Live Reality Game Podcast. And my name is Steven, and I'm back with more Surviving Reelfoot, the Decennium post-season deep dive content. And joining me today is a player who will never, ever, ever give someone her advantage ever again. It's Hannah. Hannah, how are you doing?
I'm great and super excited to talk to you, especially about the infamous advantage that went horribly wrong for me.
I feel like that was one of the most defining moments of your season in terms of who you'd be playing with and why. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I do, because I thought it was going to be used completely differently. And what's also funny is I had a mutiny advantage in Outlast and didn't end up using it. I remember regretting not using it on an ally when I could have. But maybe I was right not to have in that case as well.
I mean, we're going to dig into a lot of coulda, shoulda, wouldas with that moment, but it is one of the, I feel like it changed the trajectory, put you with the non-Kana 2.0 people and really define what your merge experience would be like as a result.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
Yeah. But before we get into the details, how have you been doing since you played Reelfoot?
Well, my body has been in a rough shape. I ended up with a terrible rash all over my body. Had to get tested for Lyme disease. It was negative. Had to go on lots of steroids and antibiotics and had to have an ingrown toenail removed. So yeah, I had a rough time afterwards, but I guess it just shows that it's like not fake, it's the real deal. And they put you through really strenuous situations.
And we do this for fun, right?
Yep. Took time off, paid a lot of money and flew across the country to get tortured.
Now, how did you discover Reelfoot?
I think I discovered it through the Outlast community. So I played in Outlast season 2, and Justin, who is like the host and creator, he played and recommended it. And I think some other people in that community had also played or at least watched it and said like, okay, this is a super intense game. And if you want the intensity and you want like the closest thing to CBS Survivor, this is it. So that's why I gravitated towards it. Cause like I love the intensity of Outlast and I wanted just even more of it, which is definitely what I got.
And so when you applied, did you get it immediately? Were you an alternate?
I did. I was accepted immediately, which was super excited. Not to continuously talk about Outlast, but I was an alternate for that one. And so I was excited to finally be like a chosen person for a game.
And so what did you do to prepare for Reelfoot?
I would like to say that I prepared, but I didn't really do anything. I think I practiced making fire once, like 2 days beforehand. I think I bought like a slide puzzle and looked up like how do you solve a slide puzzle quickly and practice like for an hour. And that's all I did. And I know like a lot of people like buy all the puzzles that you can and like work out. And I mean, I already am very active in my everyday life. So I guess I was accidentally training just from working out and dancing, but mentally no preparation whatsoever.
So when you played Outlast, you were the runner-up in a very close final tribal council. At least from my personal experience, my first game took a long time to process and to come to terms with. Did you have a lot of that going between Outlast and Reelfoot of processing, understanding, and kind of saying, well, that's what I did then. Here's what I want to do the second time.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely thought about all the things that went wrong and did try to adjust and tried to play a much more active game since I think I played more of a passive game, or at least like, let me just trust my alliance and go with them versus this time I tried to make more active decisions. But I think I did like a lot of things similarly. And I think I just also learned like what type of player I naturally am, even if I don't want to be that type of player.
So talk to me about that learning. So like, what did you learn about yourself the second time that either confirmed things from the first time or like you learned like, oh, I can do this differently?
Yeah, I think what I learned that I can do differently is that I can be more strategic and have more of a voice and like push for things that I care about. But I think I'll have to explain more, but I think unless I am crossed by someone, it's very, very hard for me to turn on somebody. And I will also like if like I will do things in games that are bad for my own game to benefit an ally. And it's not emotionally taxing for me to get turned on. I've like like not turned on, but turned
Betrayed.
against. Yeah, betrayed. Betrayed. Like when Sandra voted me out, she was crying and she was like, oh, it's gonna be like, I hope I haven't like ruined production, doing Outlast production for all of us. And I was just like, it's fine, it's a game, that's great, like all good to you. You think that's the right game move for you, then go for it. But it's like really emotionally taxing for me to turn on people that I care about, or anybody. But I think that's the thing that I learned, that I don't know how to overcome that, because I know it's a game, but I like don't like lying to people, I think, which is part of the game, I guess.
Which is a large part of the game, which makes it a little bit more difficult as a result.
Exactly. Like it looks so easy when you're watching, you know, CBS Survivor, but like it feels like you're betraying like a family member or something. So it just, it doesn't feel good, even if you logically know that it's part of the game.
And jumping ahead a bit, I mean, this is when talking to Kiri, this is one of the reasons why you were left out of that first Shauna vote, is because this will be really hard for Hannah. We don't know if, first of all, Hannah will go along, but also we know this will be really hard for Hannah. Hannah might be grateful for us to be blind to Hannah and take out Shauna. And we say, this was an attack at you, we swear. I mean, what was your reaction to that?
So to rewind, like probably a few minutes ahead of that, basically I was talking to German. He said, what do you think about making a big move and voting out Shauna or Sandra? And I said, I don't want to vote out either of those people, and I'm not going to vote for either of those people. But if you're going to do something, I'm not going to stop you, and walked away. So I don't know. I don't know if that is, I don't know how that makes me as an ally to Sandra and Shauna, but I just felt like I don't want to vote them out. But if it's good for my game, I'll let other people do it, which I guess is like good and bad, because you could argue, oh, like I didn't have blood on my hands, but also like I didn't really have any agency, and I actively let other people.
I didn't vote you out, but I let it happen.
Yeah, I did nothing to stop it and knew it might happen. So I don't know what to make of that.
We have a comment from Outlast Season 2 and member, as well as Bloomington alumni, Matthew Shedd, saying Hannah's a wonderful person and player, and we're going to have a good podcast. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Daddy Matt. I just did with him, and he's awesome. And
did that also carry through to Outlast as well? Because I know when I played in Bloomington, we had two Matts, so he was Daddy Matt, because he was the bigger one. Was that also a thing in Outlast?
We had Daddy Matt and Matty P. And Matty P, I think, was to differentiate himself from Matt C, another Australian Survivor player.
You know, I was joking with someone recently that we need to have a season of only Matts. So I think we're reaching the point where we can get 16 Matts, put them in a game together, and just drive everyone crazy as a result, and see who the true Matt is.
Yeah, and they've all been really like good characters. So I think it would be a good, exciting season.
But okay, so yeah, we'll dig more into that Shauna vote down the road. But coming into Reelfoot, then, was there anything that any strategies you had coming into the game, or you're just going to figure things out as you went?
I was hoping that I would have a similar Rachel-esque from Outlast type person. I think I really enjoy the feeling of having a really close ally and like just having someone you're 100% honest with. So my goal was to have like a super close number one ally. And I thought, or at least started out the game for me with that person being Melissa. And even like, as I remember, we were like, they sent us into a room and you're like getting ready and putting your clothes on, and they tell you like what tribe you're on. And they gave us both green, and we were like getting dressed in the same room. And like, obviously you're not supposed to like talk game, but she just like looked at me and she was like, oh, thank God, I'm so glad you're on my tribe. And so immediately I was like, yes, I think I might have like maybe she was planning to say that to anyone who was getting dressed in the same room, but I like grabbed onto that and was super excited to work with her. So that was my main thing.
So you arrive at the game. Was there anyone you either maybe recognized, or was there anyone that stood out to you in that pre-game period?
Yes, and I need to clear up the Outlast pre-game alliance confusion. So I would just like to officially say there was no Outlast pre-game alliance. None of us knew that or at least I didn't know that anybody was playing. And I wasn't even sure I knew who German was. I remember seeing him and thinking like, I think this is German from Outlast Season 1, and looking at my phone and like trying to compare, is this the same guy? But when he saw me, he didn't even like flinch. Like Jeff, obviously, he like saw me and like looked surprised. Sandra saw me and like winked. like, who knew? And like German's face didn't change at all. And he actually didn't really acknowledge my existence, I feel like, for the first 2 days of the game. So I was like, I thought I knew him, but I don't think this is the guy I thought it was.
Had German, it sounds like Sandra was on production for season 1 Outlast. Was German someone who was there too?
No, I don't think so. And if
Okay.
Sandra was there, I don't even remember her being there. But
Okay.
I met her at like the finale party or something. So like, I had met her, but wasn't like a close friend. Like the only
Gotcha.
person in that group that I was like, I feel good about was Jeff. And I was like,
Cool.
please let me be on his tribe. Next Sandra and last German, who I think is German. And then when we were put on the same tribe, I was like, oh no, this is the out of the Outlast connections, this is the one that seems the worst for me because we'd never met, never interacted.
Because you and Jeff then later played Synergy, right? Is that the game?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So we're like close friends, and we didn't know that each other was playing. There was no like pregame Reelfoot stuff. But I was like, I think that like I would be shocked if he purposely betrayed me. He wouldn't throw away his game for me, but I think he would tell me if I was going or something.
Anyone else you recognize or stood out to you in that early period?
No one I recognized. People have talked a lot about Blake's eyes. Blake's eyes, I don't know. I felt drawn to him. Not that that worked out in the game at all, but I feel like I don't know, very come hither. Not that I felt like he was saying come hither to me, but very flirty, alluring eyes. So I liked the look of Blake. And I think I just also like gravitate towards like working with women. So there's like a time when all the women were sitting on the porch, and I feel like there was a bit of like ooh, like this feels good. Again, not that anything happened with that, but it was nice to dream for me.
So when the game begins, you are put on the Green Okina tribe. And so your tribe is with Charlie, Ethan, German, Melissa, Tony, Trinica, Melanie, Danny, and Joe. What was your impression of this group of people?
I think I just felt good and happy. I thought we looked like a strong group of people, but I felt a little bit concerned about who we would vote out because I felt like the other tribe had a lot of big characters that like I hate to say it, but would be like the easy first votes. Again, not that I'm saying I would target those people, but I feel like the people who have louder personalities tend to just like they're easy votes. Nobody wants to be the first or second person voted out. So everybody just like gloms on and says like, let's get rid of this person. And I felt like we didn't have that person on our tribe. So it was like, oh my gosh, if we go to tribal, like who is going? There's not a clear target or person to me.
At what point did you kind of have your first target in mind?
Okay. See, this is one of my other problems is that like, I know that if you get to the final 2 or final 3, everybody has to go. But like, I almost feel like I don't want to target or vote anybody out unless they've done something to me, which is not helpful in Survivor. But in all honesty, I didn't have like a person I was like, okay, if we go, who am I going to vote out? Because there's nobody that I felt bad with. And I had at least that sort of casual, I feel good with you, if not like let's work together conversation on some level with like most people. So I was like, there's nobody that I feel like really bad about.
So when the game begins, you get to your camp. Were there any important connections or conversations that happened for you in those early hours?
I mean, I think the first strategy talk that happened was Melissa pulling me and German for a chat and saying, hey, I feel good about both of you. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. The 2 people I wanted to work with, because I think I have a connection with German. I'm still not sure if he is who I think he is, but I think I have an Outlast connection with him. And then Melissa, who I wanted to work with. So in my head, I was like, oh, perfect. These are my like 2 strong, the people I want to be with. And then that all kind of fell apart for various reasons. But like that was exciting to me because I was like, okay, now I think I'm in a better spot now.
Any other connections or strategy that happened that first day that was important?
I mean, probably, but it has all left my brain. I have more useful things I think to say on day 2.
Okay. So I want to kind of step back a minute and kind of talk about idols and advantages. In terms of idols, are those things you are actively looking for? Do you just want to know where they are, or you're just like, I don't want my game to have anything to do with these?
So this is probably something problematic that I do and also didn't outlast. But my attitude was in everything that I played is that I'm not looking for advantages because I don't feel like I need them, because I think that my alliances or social connections will carry me through. And if the other side or somebody else does play an idol or advantage, it may blow back on the people that I'm working with, but I don't think it's going to blow back on me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like, great, you take out one of my alliance members, it's somebody I don't have to take out. And if it takes out somebody I'm not working with, then that's somebody else I don't have to take out. Probably not a great attitude to have, probably far too confident, but that's somehow just like how I felt.
And so did you ever spend time looking for the indie idol?
I looked with Melissa when she showed me a clue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think German also shared a clue with me at some point, and I looked with him or for him, but I never just looked around on my own. I guess as I walked, I'd like scan the tree lines, but I never made it a conscious effort of like, I'm going to go idol hunting right now.
You learn there's a couple other twists of your season. The first is there's redemption. And how did that factor in or change how you played?
This interview is making me realize like how fly by the seat of my pants I am.
It's Survivor. It's all fly by the seat of your pants. Let's be honest.
Did it affect my thought process at all? I mean, it affected that I hoped certain people would come back versus others, but I don't think it affected who we voted out to me, because I felt like this person isn't good for my game right now, so let's just get rid of them. And if they come back, then I'll deal with it then. And I also just felt like I wasn't the person, if somebody came out there to be like, I need to get rid of Hannah. So I didn't feel like I personally would be like targeted by any of those people.
You also learned that Shot in the Dark is in play. Do you have any thoughts on Shot in the Dark as an advantage?
Yes, it made the game a lot more chaotic and difficult because there was a lot more talking about vote splitting. And okay, if like there were a lot of vote splits where we're like, okay, we're going to split between these two people who play the Shot in the Dark. If this one hits, we vote on this person. If this one hits, we do this one. If they both hit, then we have to pivot to this other person. So I think that actually did come into play and led to a lot more interesting strategic things, like literally like sitting with German and counting votes. This person votes this way. Okay, but what if this person is lying to us and votes this way? Who should vote in a different way to ensure that this, like, it still works out with Shot in the Dark?
And finally, there's fire tokens. Did you love fire tokens? Or did you hide fire tokens for yourself? Were you very open and sharing with people your fire tokens?
I was completely open, and anytime I got them, I would just give them to the person going on the outpost or whatever. Because I think at the beginning of the game, my attitude was just, let's just get to the merge as a group, and then we'll battle it out. Probably
which is something you actually did say to people, from what it sounds like.
Yes, I think that was my pitch, and that was also my like honest pitch, because I think for me, as until something goes wrong as a very like loyal player, that is my attitude. Like, let's together get there, and then take out the other group, and then decide what we want to do from there, and hope that I'm in a good enough spot, which I was not at the end. But you know, obviously we'll get to that later. But yeah, so I was completely free with them. There were definitely times when like people would come up to me and say like, hey, I found this extra one, or like one time I went and somebody like slipped me an extra one, and I was just like, great, I'll give it back to them. I'll give it back to them. I'm not going to hoard these, and I'm not going to hide them.
Your tribe wins a lot of reward challenges, right? Which means that you have a lot of control over the outpost and who goes, and having the tire tokens to buy the things at the outpost. Those early outpost visits that Melissa Trinica made, Charlie Tony made, etc., did those impact your game much at all?
I mean, probably everything impacts your game in some way, but I can't even remember like what we got. I think we were very like tribe strong. Like I I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah, Melissa Trinica brought back an extra tarp, gave a extra fire token to Blake and Carl. Charlie and Tony got the dryer clothes, but they also got an idle clue.
I mean, the dryer clothes was great because immediately after my socks were dry, it started raining and I like walked around in the mud. So that was a useless advantage for me. Yeah, I think it like lifted our spirits a lot, but obviously it like didn't help us that much because then we lost, I think, at least 2 immunities after that.
Yes. Now, you're no stranger to the rain. Your Outlast season had a lot of weather involved. So how was that first night in Reelfoot where you also had a lot of weather?
Yeah. So the first night, all of Pink was evacuated and half of our tribe was evacuated. And I think that also led to some pivotal things happening in the game. So production ended up giving us a choice if we wanted to evacuate or not. And half the people that stayed, I believe they wanted to stay to stick it out and have like the full experience, which I totally respect. And for me, as like a player, I would have liked to have that experience as well. But my attitude was like, if Pink is going to be dry on the porch, that is going to get and potentially get better sleep, and that's giving them an advantage in the next challenge. So I was like a strong proponent of saying, can we all just go together and get a good night's sleep and do better in the next challenge? And we did lose the next challenge, or possibly the next 2. So maybe we should have all gone to the porch. Not that it was a good night's sleep, though. It was still pretty miserable.
Yeah, so you're one of the 5 Aquino people who went to the porch to sleep that night, and from what I can tell, it was unpleasant to sleep on and really cold.
Yeah, it was not, and like the wind was going through and it was not comfortable. And then it was also a funny situation because we had all of production sleeping between us and Pink to ensure that we wouldn't talk. So like to like get out to use the bathroom in the rain in the field, I had to like climb over Pete and Parker and Amos, who were like sleeping like on like chairs, who had like built up like a fortress between us. So it was a funny night, but not as comfortable as it sounds.
So that second day, you win the vertical table maze, you win the idle hands challenge. I want to talk about one of these rewards because we don't get to see a lot of your trip to the animal sanctuary, but we do get to see a video of you with a snake on your arm.
Yes, I loved that. I mean, originally our reward was supposed to be like out on an airboat, but instead we had this animal excursion. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not afraid of snakes, so I was excited to do it. I mean, as I'm sure you heard, we had a rattlesnake encounter later on. So
yes, I think
I did enjoy that.
Someone nearly gets dropped face first into a rattlesnake. I can't remember who.
Yeah, Melissa was almost dropped, and I think it was German and maybe Tony carrying her, and literally that also broke the thing we were supposed to bring to the challenge and had to like tie it up and fix it really, really fast right before the challenge, which probably led to more of our panic and chaos in that disaster immunity for us.
So during that second day, you said you remember there's a lot more you remember going on that second day than the first day. What are some important things that happened for you that day?
Yeah, so on the way to the animal sanctuary, they like split us up randomly into groups, and my car to get there, and they told us we were allowed to talk strategy, was Ethan, Tony, me, and Trinica. And the moment we got in the car, Ethan and Tony look at each other and they're like, oh, this is the group. I'm so glad us 4 were like are together. This is the 4 people I wanted to talk to. I'm so excited. Like, us 4, what do you think? And I was like so confused because I had talked game with Trinica before. And so I was kind of looking at her like, is this for real, or was this their plan? Like, no matter who's in the car, we're gonna say like this is the 4. Like, I couldn't tell what if this was a real alliance or a fake alliance. So I was kind of like, okay, but they were so gung-ho that I was like, I feel like this is real. And then later I heard that like there was a like sort of a group made in the people that stayed in the shelter that was Ethan, Tony, Melissa, and Trinica, and then they had said like, okay, we're the 4, let's pull in Hannah and Charlie. So my 4 was one of the fake 4, I guess, a fake 4 within the 6 that they were, and then they were saying like, oh, like Trinica and Hannah, what do you think about bringing in Melissa and Charlie, which was like a good tactic to make me feel like I was part of the inner circle rather than like the last the last two to join.
Yeah, so I mean, and trying to get saying, that was the real alliance. This is, I think, believe the sexy six that comes together, and that this car ride's kind of the origin of it. I mean, was this a group of 4 of the 6 that you felt comfortable in?
I mean, I was into it. I just was confused. Like it just felt like a funny combination of people. And I remember me and Trinica had a funny conversation out in the woods somewhere where we were like, I was like, Trinica, I feel like it's always the broy guys that like approach me in whatever situation, life situations or like survivor type situations, but I feel like that's not who I'm gravitating towards. So I was like, do we want to go with this or not? So I was into it, but it wasn't clear to me like where I stood in that group. And yes, no, I agree. The Sexy Six Alliance was real. I think was never clear like where I stood in it.
Charlie, reiterating, he was also confused. They approached him too.
Yeah, and I think that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
I think that's one thing that me and Charlie bonded over at one point because he was the one that told me that we were the last 2 pulled in. And again, I don't really know what the actual order was, but if that's true, like me and Charlie kind of bonded. We were like, are me and you at the bottom? Like me and you should stick together and make sure and keep an eye on each other so we're not, so that we don't stay at the bottom.
Beyond this group of 6, are you working on building any other alliances or relationships?
Yes. So then at one point, I finally decided like, oh my gosh, we're going to tribal soon. Maybe I should try to talk to German. So I remember walking over with him privately and I was just like, oh, do you want to chat? We walk over. I think this is on the second day. And I'm kind of walking next to him and I'm like, he's not even looking at me. He's like kind of like pretending to collect firewood. And I'm like, something to the effect of like, do we have a connection? And I think he like peered over his like hat or something. And he was like, we do. Something like that. It was very like a vibe. And I was like, okay, so what are you thinking? And he was like, and he like made comments about Outlast and my game. And I was like, oh, so we do have that connection. And I think we started out a little bit on a rocky foot because I'd already told Melissa, hey, I think I know German. He's from Outlast season 1. And I told German, I was like, just so you know, I told Melissa this. Don't be mad at me. And he was like, why did you say that, Hannah? And I was like, apologizing profusely because I was like, I didn't mean to betray your trust. Even before I talked to you, I was just panicking because we hadn't talked. And I was like, oh no, I'm already setting myself up in a bad spot for like. Then I think I told him that Melissa had played Survival Challenge. So I was like, oh no, now I've told somebody some things to 2 people who I said I wouldn't say anything to. This is the second day. These are the 2 people I want to work with most. And Trinica also. And I've told like, betrayed them both with like secrets. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to hope that it doesn't get back to them. Or maybe I went to them and told each of them, I said like what I'd said to each of them, trying to like clear this. Like, I don't know. This was a long time ago.
So I guess question, were you being open about your Alice experience, or were you like, if I was working the person, then I'd kind of let it come out? Like, what was your philosophy around your past game experience?
My philosophy was if somebody asked me, I would be honest. Like if somebody asked me like in front of everybody, like, hey, have you played a game before? Not even I saw you in something. If someone said, have you ever played a game before? I was going to be honest. I just wasn't going to announce it myself.
Yeah, you're not going to say, hey, everyone, I came in second. Woo!
Exactly. But I was like really afraid of getting caught in a lie. So that was like a big stressor for me. And now going forward, I'm just going to do what Shauna did and just be like, hey, this is what I played. This is how I placed, whatever. Yeah. If people want to target me for that, like, oh, well, I just would rather just be honest going forward because it was too stressful.
I had a question. Are you starting to hear like names being thrown out as that first vote that second day?
Yeah, I mean, I think just because she hadn't talked strategy with people, like I hadn't ever taught strategy with Joe, that was like the name. I think other people as well. Like I think Melissa had even approached her saying like, what are you thinking? Are you thinking about working with anybody? And Joe, I think, had responded with something like, well, don't tell me anything because I will forget it later or something. So Melissa was like, I tried and nothing happened. So I was like, okay, well, if for me at the time, my closest ally tried something and didn't work, that is just a person that, the one person I think that I had not talked strategy with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also I'd had this sort of like, I feel good about you conversation with Melanie, because I did. And the same thing with Danny, because similarly, I did. There just wasn't a group. So I was like, all right, well, I'm already in this other group.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my people now, and I'm going to do the best that I can with everybody else. But if I have to lose them, oh well, I've already made a commitment.
I feel like one of the stories I heard from other players is, German's name was maybe kind of thrown out a little, but it didn't get traction. And I feel like people attribute the reason why it didn't get traction was because of you.
As the first vote, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
That's definitely a possibility, and I think if people threw his name out, which definitely happened with the second vote, I absolutely did try to steer people away from it.
Okay.
But it was probably easy because I was just like, I think he's great in challenges, and I think that was like easy enough. And I think he did have other people like vouching for him. Like I believe like he had good relationships with like Charlie, Melanie, and Trinica, who probably weren't like targeting him.
The end of the second day, you win that first immunity challenge where you have to go kayak out, retrieve pieces, then solve a puzzle. Anything you want to say about the challenge?
I just didn't realize, I think coming from New England, like kayaking is a very common activity. So I just didn't realize that this would be such a stressful activity for most of the cast. So when people were like, oh, are you are you good at kayaking? I didn't realize basically you should answer yes if you've ever been kayaking before. Because people were very stressed. And I don't mean that in a rude way. Just I was surprised since it's just so common here in Boston. But I loved that. I loved all the water challenges.
Yeah, I'm from Los Angeles, so I feel the exact same way. It's like, oh, I've done it before, and it's something you just don't realize that other people just might not have until you're in Survivor and it's do or die.
Exactly. And same thing with swimming. I was like, I'm not a professional swimmer, but when we saw where we'd have to swim out to, I was like, yes, I don't have a problem with that.
So into day 2, can you rank for me the players in your tribe from most important to your game to least important of your game?
At that time?
At that time, the kind of end of that second day, you just won that first immunity challenge.
Probably the people I was closest to probably at that point were, I don't even know, actually me and German probably hadn't even spoken at that time. So probably, I think that was on the second day when we spoke. I mean, we'd spoken socially, but not strategically. Melissa was definitely number 1. I think at that time, Trinica was number 2. And me and Trinica had kind of an odd relationship where I think it wasn't clear to me what her intentions were to me, because we had this let's have an open line of communication where we don't have to work together or vote together, but I'll always be honest with you. And so to me, it just wasn't clear what that meant. But I felt I was like, okay, I think this is the person I felt closest to both strategically and emotionally. Second. Then it's so hard because then I was in the sexy 6. So then probably some combination who I was closest to was probably strategically was probably, I can't some combination of Charlie, probably because we talked about being on the bottom. Ethan and Tony. I mean, again, we hadn't talked that much strategy, but I was in this weird alliance where I was confused about what was happening. And then I felt emotionally close to and really liked Danny and Melanie. So again, I didn't want to vote them out either. And I remember there was a time when I was sort of talking to German about the second vote. I know we haven't gotten there yet, but I was we discussed voting out one of the guys from the sexy 6, but it just felt like there wasn't enough agency or the votes for that. So that would have been a totally different game if that had happened.
Yeah, so the next day, Debbie's the first person voted off the non-Kana tribe, and this is where fortunes kind of change for your tribe. You have that silent relay challenge, which you already talked about. You have to carry Melissa in a stretcher, etc. It does not go well. You're going to your first tribal council. We've already talked about how Joe's name's been out there. Was this a straightforward strategy round for you, or was there more going on here?
Yeah, it was straightforward, and it was just a little bit odd that like with Shot in the Dark in play, you'd think there'd be a second name, but I think nobody, or at least I didn't want to vote. I'd at least had a strategic conversation with every single other person in the game. So this was a situation where I was like, okay, this is the person I'm voting for, not out of dislike as a person, out of just no strategy talk there. And if she plays the Shot in the Dark, I feel like she's not voting for me. So, or yeah, if you can't even vote if you're playing the Shot in the Dark.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen if she does, but there's not a high probability. Like it seems strategically odd that somebody wouldn't throw another vote. And I don't know if somebody did, but I didn't consider it.
Yeah, because it ends up being 1 vote Melanie, 2 votes Danny, 7 votes Joe. Were you surprised by the Melanie or the Danny votes?
I don't remember being like particularly surprised, but I think I probably felt relief that there were other votes in case a Shot in the Dark hit, because I knew I wasn't going to vote for somebody else.
Talking about I want to dig a little bit more into this Sexy Six alliance. I mean, you said Melissa's your number one. Do you feel like that was being reciprocated, or Melissa had other people that maybe were ahead of you? Was that something that you're thinking about at all?
Oh, sorry. I have to go back for a second. I know that with that 2-1 vote, there was something sketchy that happened where I remember there was some conversation about it and some drama where I told German and then people were like, why did you tell him? Some other people. There was something there. I don't remember what it was, and it probably wasn't caught on camera. But there was definitely something there. So you just jogged my memory where like something that I thought was so simple at the time like turned out like to cause more chaos. Anyway, I guess we'll see. I'll have to check in with the other Reelfoot people to see if anyone
those you're listening, comment here.
Yeah, does anyone remember what there was some weird thing with the vote where like I don't know. I think people are like, how does German know? And I didn't want to come forward and say that I told him. But I remember also feeling like, why does it matter that he knows that somebody is also not voting for Joe or something? I don't know. There was something there that I was, anyway, I wasn't shocked, but there was something more interesting there that happened that I don't remember.
Yeah, going back to the other question, talking about Melissa, you said you're having her as your number one. Do you feel that you were her number one, or like, as I know, Tony is someone who's really important to Melissa's game, even this early on?
I had felt like I was. I didn't feel like she would ever like throw her game away from me or like do something crazy for me, like like I have done or am willing to do. But I did feel like I was her number one, mostly because we talked about how she had played Survival Challenge with like a friend of mine, Eric, who played season 1 about last. So we like talked about that and we were all like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be so funny if like when he watches this, he sees like his friend and his number one ally from Survival Challenge working together. And just so many times she said to me like, Hannah, when I say I'm good with you, I'm good with you. And like, obviously that can be emotional manipulation or strategic manipulation, but it didn't feel like it was to me. So I felt like I could trust her completely. And I was completely honest with her about everything and told her, hey, I think I know German, even though I probably shouldn't have said that.
With Joe being the first boot and the only person in the tribe you really haven't talked or strategized with, that doesn't leave you many easy outs if you lose again. Was that something you're already thinking of, or you're just like, we'll just win out and not have to worry about it?
Yes. Well, I was very concerned because I was like, I've made some sort of I feel good with you comment or aligns with everybody. So I was very nervous I was hoping we would just win out and I wouldn't, or win a few and then swap or something. Obviously that didn't happen. So when we lost the second one, not that I was obviously very heartbroken that Danny left, but it made it so much easier because I didn't have to like turn on anybody I made like a promise to.
Talking about that Steal Bacon challenge, who'd you go up against?
Which challenge? Wait, remind me which
Steal
challenge?
the Bacon, the one where Trinica and Jordan spent 15 minutes wrestling on the ground. You're the race out, get the medicine ball, run back.
Yeah. I went twice. The first time I think I was with Shauna both times. The first time I grabbed the ball and I think just outran, like luckily was able to outrun her. And the second time we had a full wrestling match. And then Shauna eventually dragged me across Pink's mat. I've never done anything that physical because I've never done any, like I'm not super, I'm like, I dance, but I don't have a lot of like contact sport ball related things. So that was honestly, I was like very impressed with both of us, and it was scary, but it was fun.
Comments from Charlie and German. Charlie saying, I think we were splitting, this goes back to the Joe votes, we were splitting between Danny and Joe, and German found out. German says, I knew the split because of Ethan. I don't remember what you're talking about, Hannah.
Well, that's fair. I don't quite remember what I'm talking about either, but
this is a Stephen problem for interviewing me in August.
There's some light bulb going off in my head that I remember there was something. Okay, I don't know. We'll see if my memory improves or not.
One thing we didn't talk about for that first tribal council is you do attend the outpost with Jeff. Can you talk to me about that?
Yes. I feel like that was never shown. Maybe he's saving it for the episode.
Yeah, that was never shown to us. This is hopefully episodes.
Yeah. Yes, if it happens, hopefully. Yeah. So that's when I realized that he has not said that we know each other, because he was like, blue-haired girl over there. So I was like, oh, okay, so we're pretending we don't know each other. So we go and like we immediately are like, we're good. When we get to the outpost, we see that there's like some like food or whatever, like random rewards, and there's also like 2 scrolls, one for each of us. And we basically discuss like, okay, since we're both good, we're good with each other, how can we both make it to the merge or swap and like work together? What's going to be advantageous for both of us? I don't remember what deal we made, but we made some deal where we like actively agreed we're both going to get these scrolls. We like made up some lie about how much the banana pudding was going to cost to like hide what it was. Like there was this whole lie. I think we did some negotiation where he didn't have like enough tokens or something happened where I got him to give me a token or some negotiation that, again, I don't remember. But we ended up both getting the scrolls, and we agreed we're going to lie to our tribes and say that I think he gave me tokens. Like I had enough tokens to buy it, but he gave me tokens so I was able to hide it. There was something like that. And then basically like on our walk back, Amos says to me like, do you want to read the scroll? And I open the scroll and start reading it and see that it's like, once again, the mutiny advantage that I also got an outlast. And I immediately realized like, oh, I should just do the same thing. Be honest with my tribe and say like, I'll use it for us. And like, then nobody will be suspicious of me. And I immediately like yell at Jeff as he's walking away, like, nope, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say that I got something. Same thing too. And he's like, okay, got it. And so like, we just like on the path diverging. We're like, which again, I don't think we were supposed to be yelling at each other at that point, but I was like panicked.
And so, yeah, so you go back and you tell your entire tribe, which I don't think Jeff does to his tribe, which is interesting.
I have no idea.
Yeah. In retrospect, should you have kept that secret, or with the advantage of the mutiny, there's no harm to sharing that information?
I mean, I can see the harm in that, like, potentially you get tribe, I don't want to say screwed, but you get swapped with somebody and people like hide it from you that you're in a bad spot so that you don't mutiny away because they want to vote you out. So I could see that as being a reason to hide it, but I felt like people will know that I was honest and know like that I bought something. Nobody's going to be like, well, Hannah said she didn't get anything, but did she get anything? Like I can prove that I'm being honest. And I remember in Outlast, Peter said one of the reasons why he trusted me and liked me was because I came back and was honest about the mutiny advantage. And he thought, oh, this is somebody I can trust and is a team player. So I was like, great, I'll do that again. And hopefully people will feel the same way. And as you can see, I was willing to use it on other people because I did give it to Melissa later on. So I was being honest, like I was going to use it for the team, or at least for my close alliance members.
Do you feel like that's also kind of the downside? Is like, everyone's like, Hannah has this. Hannah says she'll use it for me, but then you give it to Melissa.
Yes. So I could be wrong, but I think that, I don't know if Trinica, you're still there, but I think that she may have felt, oh, I'm not as close with Hannah as I thought because she used it on Melissa rather than me, because they were like down in the numbers. But yeah, that's a valid thing. Like somebody might think they're my number one ally and they're not, and I give it to somebody else. So that's a danger. But I was just hoping everybody would want to keep me for that reason.
Trinica's comment. I was annoyed. Yes.
I both like that people are here and don't, because I'm like, I'm going to say something and somebody can fact check me. But it's good. I'll know right away.
So going back to that second tribal loss, the one, and Danny will eventually bring your tribe together and ask to be voted out. But did you have initial thoughts of who you wanted to target? You mentioned that you and German maybe were talking a bit.
Yes. I mean, so the horrible thing about that was that we had overnight to strategize. So I don't know if you've already heard about this, but that just meant that we basically didn't sleep and everyone just disappears into the night with a few flashlights.
You're talking the Danny vote or the Melanie vote?
I'm talking about the Melanie vote, which is skipping ahead because that was where it becomes more exciting. I think for the second vote, I think people were considering Danny, and I think I was okay with that because even though I'd said to Danny, I feel good with you, somebody, I don't know if it was Trinica or German, but somebody said to me like, oh, when I talked to Danny, he did mention disliking you, but he didn't throw out your name as like, oh, let's work with her. So I was like, okay, if he's not saying my name to other people as a potential ally, then I might feel closer to him than he feels to me. So I was like, okay, I like him, but what are you going to do? We have to get rid of somebody.
For the gross food challenge, do you like eating baby food?
More than other people, apparently. And I have a big complaint about the gross food eating challenge because a bunch of things that we ate, I eat in my regular day life. Not the worms, not the baby food, but the tofu and the wasabi. I was excited. The people who were like eating it and and throwing up, I was like, stop eating it and I'll just eat it for you. The 1,000-year-old egg, that is a very common part of like Asian cooking. So I've eaten that before, just not by itself really fast, but I've eaten it in porridge. So I was like, damn it, why couldn't I have had that? Because I would have like, that's protein that I'm used to, that I would love to eat. So the worms were the problem for me.
No, I'm glad that's not part of your daily diet, but who knows, maybe it will be now.
No.
So Trinica wins. As you were kind of saying, this is going to be chaotic for many reasons, and half of it's which it's night 3, you're voting morning 4.
Yeah, that was horrible. I'd never want to do that. Well, I do.
You do that several times.
Yes. Yes. But it was horrible because then we didn't sleep. We had to like collect firewood and start the fire, but nobody was prioritizing that. So we only had a few flashlights. So people would disappear into the night with the flashlights. You'd go off collecting firewood, turn off the flashlight, and then just be strategizing in the dark. At one point, I was at camp by myself with no flashlight, no fire because nobody was building the fire. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone is out in the woods strategizing, and I'm here trapped in the dark in the cold. So that was terrible.
So so talk about the strategy of this round, because I love this round because people don't know how they voted still.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Ethan says he voted for German, but the numbers don't make sense if that's the case.
I guess we'll have to see in the...
Yeah, so until we actually see the footage, I can't fill out how people vote. It's like my voting chart is question marks by several people's votes where it's like, I think they voted this way, but maybe not.
I mean, I think that is the vibe of the night and the next morning. It was chaos and horrible. Yeah. So basically, my impression of it, or my experience, was there was the Sexy Six Alliance, which literally only left German and Melanie, both people who I didn't want to vote out. German, who I was point blank. At that point, I think we'd had more strategic talks, and I think he had rose in the ranks where Melissa, him, and Trinica were like somewhere. I was like, I don't know in these people who are my top people, but like these are the three people I'm most connected to, and I just flat out refuse to vote for. Like I refuse to vote for at all, which I do in some cases, but I really didn't want to. So basically, I was like, okay, German is in the chopping block, so Melanie is the only other option for me if I want to keep with the Sexy Six alliance. But then I also feel good about Melanie. So at one point, me, German, and Melanie sit down, and they're both like, "What do we do for us both to stay?" And us three were sitting in the living room. I remember German telling me that Melanie wasn't sure if that was a real conversation or not. At the time, that was a real conversation. We were genuinely trying to keep her, on my end at least. And we were like, okay, who's willing? Who else of us three are willing to vote? I felt out of everybody else the least close to Ethan, Tony, and Charlie. Again, not that I was against them. I was just like, these are the people I've had the least emotional connection to. And I realized I'm a very emotional player. So if I'm not emotionally connected with you, I'm more likely to vote you out. German says, I really don't want to vote Charlie. We're close. Melanie's like, I really don't want to vote Tony. We're close. And then I think out of those three, I was like, oh, I also like Ethan. Not that we've talked a lot of strategy, but I do like vibe with him as a friend. So I was like, I really don't want to vote Ethan. So there was like not a good name there. So we were kind of like, okay, let's all talk to other people and see what we can have happen. And then chaos just ensued. Every person you talk to has a different story. People are getting chaos. Like I think a little bit of chaos is erupting. For example, I talked to Tony. We both say we want to vote for different people. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we just vote for different people. You're not willing to put Melanie down. I'm not really willing to vote German down. But at the end of the day, neither of those people are in our alliance. So to me and you, it shouldn't matter which of them goes. And he said, yep, that's right. That's right. And then later somebody says to me, hey, Tony was really upset by that comment you said about we can just vote for different people. And so then I was like, but I'm not saying I'm going to vote for you. I'm not saying I'm going against the alliance. I'm saying we can vote for different people outside of the alliance. So that's where I think some tension between me and Tony began, because we were not on the same game philosophically. Whereas me and Trinica, that our open line of communication, it felt like philosophically we were on the same page of like, we can do different things. Let's just not vote each other out.
So going into as you get close to the vote, do you think it's like it's German, I'm just gonna be the minority, or like, no, I think out of the numbers, Melanie's going home? Do you have a sense of that?
So this is where I think I lost for myself some loss of trust, or I didn't feel good in the Sexy Six alliance, because us six kept talking about like, okay, should it be German or Melanie? And I felt like my voice wasn't really being heard. Like, not that it needed to go my way, or obviously I wanted it to go my way, but it just kind of felt like I would say, I don't want to do German for these reasons. And I just didn't feel like my case was being taken seriously. And I don't know what comments or why it was that way. I just remember feeling like I don't have as much agency in this alliance as I felt like with Rachel and Outlast. I felt like I was being heard and I had an equal say. And I just didn't have that feeling with the Sexy Six. So ultimately, I was like, I think that German might be going, and I think there might be nothing I can do about it, but I'm not going to put his name down. And if they don't like me for that, like, oh, well, I'm not going to vote out one of my closest allies. I just don't do that.
So you get the tribal council, and tribal council begins. What happens?
I think Melanie sees something. Sees something in the front where Parker or Amos or something is talking, tries to grab this advantage, and German jumps up and leaps for it and grabs it. And it was just absolute. It was amazing. I don't think that German is a villain, but I guess that's where the villain edit may have began. He was a hero to me, but I can see why people might say something differently. But he like snatches it out from, I don't know, under her hands. I don't think out of her hands.
No, not out of her hands. I think he dives and beats her to it.
Yes. And then basically, I can't remember what exactly happens, but I think I don't know if he reads it. Oh my gosh. I remember it being an amazing moment where basically I don't know if it became a live tribal, but I think people maybe wanted to vote him, and it turned into something where it's like, oh my God, let's split the vote. And then if we have to revote, vote him out. And I remember him, I don't know if it was before the votes were read or at what point, but he stood up and he was like, I'm going to give this to you, Hannah. Don't read it in front of anybody else. That will be betraying my trust. And I don't remember when that happened, but I remember feeling like so honored and just like so I was about to say like in love, not in love, but like in a, just like my heart was like filled with like, oh my gosh, this person really has my back. And it wasn't a lie that this person is really closely aligned with me. Yeah.
So were you surprised at the outcome of this tribal council then?
Yes, I think I thought German was going and I was just going to vote differently than my alliance. I think that we had decided, I think there was like a live tribal situation where people said, okay, let's split the vote. You're voting this way. You're voting this way. Like girls vote Mel, guys vote German, maybe. Yeah, something like that. And I remember thinking like, okay, good. Because I'm not going to vote German out. And then I don't remember exactly when or how, but I feel like I think me and Charlie looked at each other kind of like, oh my God, we're splitting the vote. And I think Charlie was kind of like, should we do this? Like, should I flip it? And I was like, yes. And so I don't know exactly how it happened, but I just really feel like that was like a big move that me and Charlie made together to keep and save German. And that really, like, I think cemented us three for the rest of the game. And, you know, thank goodness for us, we got swapped together after that.
What's the aftermath repercussion of this tribal council like back at camp?
I think Charlie says that, and again, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he pretends that it was an accident, that he was confused. He apologizes. People are comforting him because he's like, I feel bad. I'm so sorry. I messed up. But like secretly, we're like, hee. And I just keep saying to Charlie, like, thank you. I've got your back. And like, I'm just thinking like, thank God, like German is still here. I think that German says something like, I was going to share this with everybody, but I'm not going to. Right, this is like all coming back to me like now live. It's like putting me back. I think I forgot all this. I think that we go on like a mad dash, like idol hunt, where I think everybody goes and like searches for idols at the same time down in this ravine, I think. And we're all just like running chaotically, like looking like it's like on CBS Survivor when you see everybody like running. It was like crazy. And everyone's just like, did you find it? Did you find it? And like production is like yelling at us like, we have to go to the challenge field. We have to go to the challenge field. And we're like, not yet. Like, I think we think we're going to swap and like left one or more idols at this tribe camp. And we're like, we're not going. And they're like, you have to go now. Like, this is not an option. You all have to leave now. So we leave. As far as I know, with nobody finding the idol at that point.
Had this group of people gone to another tribal council, who would have been voted out?
I mean, I think everybody would have wanted to vote out. I mean, the question is Charlie willing to, I don't think there's like the numbers to like flip because there's 7 people at that point. So even if me, Charlie, and German do something, could we have pulled somebody else over or could I have convinced somebody else? I don't know. I think the bulk of people want to vote German and I think I don't want to. And I think I don't know. I don't know what happens if somebody can get pulled over, but I think that's who the bulk of people want to vote except for me.
Is there someone that you would have won the targets?
That's the problem again. Like it's like I just like it's like I only want to target people if they do something to me, which again that makes no sense. But I just like it's like I wait until something bad happens to me and then I go after that person.
Well, you make it to the tribe swap with the mutiny advantage in hand, and you are swapped to the pink tribe. You are Nankana 2.0. So from your original tribe, you're with Charlie, German, and Tony. And and from the pink tribe, you have Blake, Carrie, Sandra, and Shauna. Looking at the 4 Okina members, or the other 3 members you're swapped with, did you feel good about this 4?
I felt mixed. I felt good about. I personally felt good myself with each of them, but I felt like us as a 4 was a precarious 4.
Why?
Because you know, Tony had been interested in voting out German before, and me and Charlie did not want to vote him out. And I had known that Tony had said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't like that Hannah said we could just vote for different people." So I felt like Tony didn't like me, or maybe didn't like me, but I felt like he didn't relate to my style of gameplay. So we're just like, and then he had acted very like, "Oh, it's totally fine." Like he had agreed with me. Yeah, it's totally fine if we vote for different people. And then he had disagreed with me behind my back. And that just felt odd because I felt like since I was just a casual conversation, why not just say to me, "You know what, Hannah? I think if we're in the alliance, we should always vote together. And I don't really like the idea of us voting separately."
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. It was an odd thing to say to me, to say behind my back. And I was just confused about how he felt about me. I didn't dislike him. I just was confused.
So in your ideal world, who would you have liked to swap with from your original tribe?
I would have wanted to swap with German, Trinica, and Melissa.
Okay.
Like, to me, those were my top people. And again, maybe that wouldn't have been the most cohesive unit of people together, but those are the people I personally felt closest to.
Now, from the original Nankana, you have Blake, Kiri, Sandra, and Shauna. What were your first impressions, or what was it like playing on that swap tribe with them?
First impressions was that Sandra, we had the Outlast connection again. Just I didn't feel like she would actively target me right away, but I felt like fine with her for a swap tribe. But I didn't think that she would like go to bat for me necessarily. Like I didn't think she would turn on her alliance for me, but I felt like if she were to pick somebody to try to vote out, it wouldn't be me. So I felt good about her. Shauna, I liked her vibe a lot. And it turned out I was actually her alternate for Outlast. And because she didn't play Outlast, I was able to go in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. There was some like, I don't know. I felt kind of a kindred spirit type of vibe with Shauna. I liked her. Who else there was? Kiri, I definitely grew to be close friends with by the end, but I couldn't totally read her at the beginning. So I just wasn't sure how she felt. And then Blake, again, he had those like come hither eyes. So once again, I was in a situation where I was like, oh, I don't want to vote out any of these people. I want to work with everybody. Let's just not lose anything, which is the opposite of what happened. I went to almost every tribal.
Well, actually, you win the first immunity challenge. But talking a little bit more on this tribe, I mean, from your initial impression, was it like, hey, I'm going to stick with my original green and one of them off the flip, or, you know, what, or like, you know, I think Tony is feeling very, very uncomfortable on this tribe. Are you thinking like, shoot, we just have to give up Tony and like see what happens from there?
It's complicated because I think me, German, and Charlie could sense that Tony felt uncomfortable, which is valid because he maybe didn't feel as close. He may have felt like, oh, I just tried to vote out German. And, you know, I understand why. But I think strategically, the right move for him would have been come to us and be like, all right, y'all, this is the new four. Let's move forward together. And I think that confidence, if he had displayed that confidence to us, I think we could have gone with that. You know what I mean? Like, I think the more unconfident and scared he got, the more we were like, why are you so not confident? I thought you were green strong. I thought you were in the Sexy Six Alliance with me and Charlie. Like, I understand why you might not feel good about German, but why aren't you coming to me and Charlie being like, I feel good about us. Let's move forward. Us three, what can we do? Can we pull in German? So again, I'm not trying to blame him. I think that his uneasiness led us to feel uneasy about him.
So were you tempted to use your mutiny advantage immediately, or you're just, I know because the other tribe has only 3 members of original green, so flipping over maybe is not the best, but were you tempted to use it on yourself or anyone at that initial swap?
I think it went by so quickly that I didn't even consider that I had it, honestly. It was like, all right, we swapped and we're going back or something. Like, I think my head wasn't even in it at that point, but I think I saw who I was with and I felt good. And I don't remember what you said. The other tribe was 3 green and 4. Yeah, I think I was like, okay, I'm already 4 against 4. Like this is, I guess, the best I can do.
Had this initial tribe gone to tribal council each other, do you know what would have happened?
I think the 2 names that were being thrown out were Blake or Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would have preferred to vote out Blake just because I did have the sexy six thing with Tony and I was still interested in working with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, I mean, I didn't want to vote out. Again, I didn't want to vote out Sandra, Shauna, or Kiri. So, like, again, those were the two options that I had. And Tony was making me confused about how he felt.
So you win immunity. The fun happens right before the next challenge begins. So you arrive, and the first thing you see is Jeff is gone.
Yes. That was not, that confused me because before we swapped, I was sitting down with, I don't know who it was. I think it was Melissa and or it was, I don't know who it was, but I think it was some people from the Sexy Six. And I remember saying like, okay, in case we swapped, I'm just going to put everything on my table, out on the table. I played a game with Jeff before. He's super loyal. I think if you say to him, I'm close with Hannah, I think he will work with you. So the fact that he was the person voted out, it immediately kind of made me confused because I was like, obviously I'm glad that all my original green people are there, but I was like, why is that the person that you targeted when I explicitly said this is a number you can work with and this is somebody I feel good about? I understand that people want to break up pairs and stuff, but I also felt like at this point when you need the numbers, it's not a good number for you to have. Like I'm saying, like this is someone we can use for us. Like I will not make him do what I say, but like I think that I kind of felt that way. I kind of was like, I don't think he's going to turn against me. So this is a number we can use for us. So that was very concerning to me.
Talk about the decision
Yes.
to bring out your mutiny event.
Yes.
Why now? And walk the whole story here because there's a lot that happens like boom, boom, boom.
Yes. So this is where the game goes off the rails in my mind. The game, for me, I think completely shifts because at this point, I feel completely loyal to Melissa, emotionally and strategically. And I look at her and was like, what happened? And she was like, I think she was like shaking her head and she was like, I'm in trouble. I don't know what to do. So immediately I was like, okay, she's in trouble. She's my ally. Let me go over and give her.
Sorry. Sandra's saying, here we go.
So I immediately think like, okay, my number one ally is in trouble. She can mutiny over to us. And like, obviously, again, I see why that doesn't feel good for Trinica or Ethan over there. Like I'm literally, if she comes over, they're just kind of screwed over without the numbers. But my mind just goes with my number one ally is in trouble. Let me save her. So I say, do you want the mutiny advantage? And she says, no, I need somebody over here. And so I think, okay, well, I'm not going over there. I feel good over here. Like, why don't you come over here with me? So I'm like, no, I'm not going over there. And also I was like, we have a 4-4 split over here. You come over here. We have the 5-4 advantage. Yeah, that doesn't put Ethan in a good spot, but you're safe at least. Like I hate to say it, but like save yourself with me, and we can be safe together probably until the merge. Like that was my mental state. So I say no. I'm not good. I don't want to send anyone over. I'm not going over there. I will only give it to you if you use it on yourself to come over. I don't know if this was clearly communicated, but in my head, I believe this is what was happening. She says, okay, I give it to her. She takes it from me and walks over to my tribe and gives it to Tony, and he uses it and mutinies away. Thus, we lose the advantage. So now it's a 4-3 situation. We lost the equal thing. Who I thought was my number one ally used my advantage in a way without my consent, who also apparently, in my eyes, voted out Jeff. Another person I said, this is somebody I want to work with. And I was like, what is happening? Something is going horribly wrong in my game right now.
And then Jordan joined you.
Yes. And then Jordan comes over. And I hate to say it, but I feel like Jordan was probably swap screwed no matter where she went at that point. Because I think if she stays over there, she ends up getting voted out. If she comes over here, she ends up getting voted out. Unless, I mean, I think, or if Sandra didn't get the shot in the dark, if that didn't hit. Anyway, maybe she would have stayed in that situation. But Jordan was in a tough spot, is what I'm trying to say.
So you went from being actually in a decent place where it's 4-4, but both sides have someone that maybe they'll be willing to give up so we can at least get through 2 votes to, okay, I'm in a minority of 3. There is 5 over there. Even if they sacrifice Blake, I'm down the numbers.
Yes, yes. So at that point, I was also, my emotional state was like so confused and I was panicking. And I was just also, I didn't feel like, okay, Melissa doesn't want, like, hates me or something, but I was like, it feels like she doesn't really care what happens to me. Whereas I was willing to literally like burn my advantage, which could have saved me later. Like I could have saved it in case we were down in the numbers and mutinied away again or something. So I just felt very like hurt and confused. Again, hurt. I know it's a game. I just was like, what's happening? And I know that later I have a confessional and I say that I literally say the word she's dead to me. And I meant that strategically. Not any type of way, personal way.
Well, the best way to think and process through something like this is by holding up a crate for an hour with your legs.
Yes, and I think that's what led to my ingrown toenails because my toes were numb. Like my big toes were numb until some of them are still numb. And Shauna said the same thing.
Like today?
Yes. I had to have them removed. Like I had to have them removed because they were like so impacted. And I think it was pressing on the crate so long that it like caused that. I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm going to blame it on.
So this begins the start of a very long day for you, or kind of day split between day 4, day 5 of 3 tribal councils in a row. So you lose this crate and immunity challenge. You're back at camp. You're in minority. What do you do?
What did we do? Okay, it's like slowly coming back. I know that I believe Blake was saying to pink people. I don't remember any tribe names.
So you have Kiri, Sandra, Jordan, and Shauna, and Blake all from original non-Kana, but pink and green is fine.
Okay, perfect. I believe Blake was saying to them, let's split on Hannah and German. So I was thinking, okay, well, that's someone throwing out my name, so I would like to get rid of this person. And then I don't think that they were interested in that. I think Blake was chaotic enough that I think everyone was willing to get rid of him because he had made comments like like all sorts of interesting comments about the rice and burning people's clothes and very survivor villain type comments where people were like, I don't know what he's doing. And it just felt very chaotic. And it also, people had made comments that he had thrown the challenge. I don't know if that's true. Like it felt like nobody, even on pink, felt like they could like trust him. That's the vibe I got. So I think everyone agreed to vote for Blake. And we had no backup plan because, as you can see, everyone voted for him. He played the shot in the dark. If it had hit, who knows what would have happened. But like there was no plan B for some reason.
Are you trying to think about or put into plan like what happens if we lose again, or you're like, we'll deal with that when we get there?
I mean, so German had an idea, I believe. And he had said, like, Hannah, should we use Blake for this one vote to get out somebody else and then take him out after? Because maybe we can use him as a number. And I think we didn't go with that because it just felt very scary trusting him. I was so afraid we said something. We tried to work with him and then he would run back and say, actually, Hannah and German are trying to do something. And then that blows back on us and one of us goes. Like we right now have a surefire way to get rid of somebody we know isn't working with us, who's throwing out both of our names. Like, I guess I was going more short term. Like, let's just get through this one vote.
Because I think German has that block a vote advantage. And so theoretically, you could 4-4 with Blake and block a vote against him.
I don't even remember that he had that.
Okay. German things we'll talk about later.
Okay, I'll listen to that one.
So Blake goes out. This is gonna be another night for go ahead.
But first, not until when he goes out, Shauna says, Blake, I think you have something of ours. And Blake was trying to escape with our rice, which I didn't know people were allowed to like steal things like that, which later becomes a whole plot line of us with people stealing the flashlights.
I think a lot of Aquino 2.0 go out with things in their bag.
Yes, yes. And then we kept getting in trouble for like, production was like, why do y'all keep losing the flashlights? Why are you always losing the bug spray? And it wasn't losing it. People were taking the things. But good to know we weren't crazy, because we were like, how are we misplacing all this stuff?
So Blake goes out. You have the hot pursuit challenge. It does not go well for your tribe. This is going to be a night 4, the immunity challenge morning day, or tribal council morning day 5 situation again. How is this evening and morning of strategy for you?
I mean, I just need to rewind for a second and just say that challenge is how you know that they don't change the challenges based on who's winning or losing. Because that challenge, we get there, production looked so forlorn. Like, not that because they wanted the other tribe to lose, but they knew we were going to lose and it wasn't going to be even close. And they literally just were looking at us like, I'm sorry. Like, I think somebody even said to us, they're like, I'm sorry. Have fun, guys. And we were so demoralized that I remember we were almost like in tears. Like, we're not going to win this. Should we just save the calories and the energy and just like forfeit? And at least we can like go back earlier. It was like one of the most demoralizing times I felt in a game. And I wish they had shown this, but like right before we started, like we collectively were like, you know what? We can at least, instead of having this attitude of like, we are going to lose, can we at least try to win? Like, how epic would it be if we had this come from behind victory and we like got ourselves so pumped up? And as you can see in the video, we actually start gaining on the other tribe, because we're like, if we just all out sprint, they may not expect it. And then we just like couldn't keep up with it, and people fell, including me, and got lost. But like, it was such an epic, amazing moment that probably is never going to be shown in its fullest, like on tape. But it was like, I think it bonded us as a tribe so closely together. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were able to like, one of the things that emotionally bonded us together, because we just felt so downtrodden the whole time when we were swapped, trauma bonding together.
So let's get to the chaos of the strategy.
The chaos of the strategy. So this is the thing that you touched on before, where so I can't speak for other people, but German is able to pull in Kiri, and he can speak about that because he knows more about how that went. But basically, he was able to pull in Kiri, and he was like, you know what? I think maybe us 4 can do something. I don't know exactly how the votes went, but basically he was like, do you want to take out a big threat like Sandra or Shauna? Like, they both won games. They're really strategic. They're really good social players. Like, should we take out one of them? And I was just like, I'm not going to vote for either of them, but if you want to, you can do it, and you'll have to do it without me, and just walked away. And I was like, again, not that I had anything against Jordan. I just was like, I literally have never had any strategic conversation with her. I've never played with her. She's the easy vote for me. That's who I'm voting. And once again, this is a very dangerous way to play, but I kind of was like, okay, this doesn't work out. I don't think I'm the person that the former Pinks are targeting. So worst case, somebody I'm with, not that I want them to go home, but I think it's not as dangerous for me to be doing my own thing. I think that is not smart strategically, but that was my attitude at the time.
So did you know that German was going to get votes, or were you just like, hey, I just don't think it's me?
I think we counted out the votes and we thought that he would, but I think we thought we had the votes to do something. I can't remember exactly why we thought we were safe. I think we were trying to do like a 2-2-2 split. I think we maybe thought they were splitting. And if Kiri lied to them and I don't remember exactly how the numbers worked out. Hopefully German can tell you more next week. But like, I remember thinking that we had the numbers, but thinking that Jordan was the person going. But I was not offended.
And so let's say they say, hey, we want to vote Jordan out. You've been on board. Let's do this 4-3. Here we go.
Sorry, wait, say that again.
If they had said, let's vote Jordan out instead of Sandra or Shawnee, been like, I'm on board, let's do this, the four of us, let's roll.
Yes, and I think that's what I thought the plan was or something. I think I thought that was the plan was, but I knew that there was something maybe nefarious going on because I was like, if you do that, you'll have to do it without me.
So you walk me through the vote reveal then.
I don't remember what the things coming out, but I think I remember seeing that it was different, feeling shocked that I was like shocked, like slightly alarmed that German Charlie were able to lie to me so easily. But also I wasn't offended because I knew what I said. You know what I mean? And I know that they kept saying right afterwards, like, I'm sorry, it wasn't against you. We weren't trying to blindside you. It's just because of what you said. And I was like, yeah, great. Yes, I know. Like, I wanted to play with Shauna, but you did what made sense strategically for you and probably strategically for me too, because I think I am too much of an emotional player and don't want to vote out people if I am emotionally connected with them. So that was probably good for my game as well.
Yeah, so German gets 3 votes. He uses his advantage, cancels out a vote. Shauna gets 3 votes, and you are the lone Jordan vote that tribal council.
Yes.
Well, you lose the next challenge.
Great. It was so demoralizing. Like, I don't know how to say how depressing it felt.
Actually, before we get to that, after the Shauna vote, with Shauna going home, were there any other repercussions with this tribe?
I mean, I think me and Sandra may have been okay because I was at least able to say to Sandra, like, look, I told you I wasn't voting for you or Shauna, and I didn't. And they kind of blindsided me. So I think I was able to at least maintain that relationship. And I know that I believe like Charlie, Kiri, and German kept like reassuring me, like, it's not against you. We weren't trying to lie to you. And I was just like, it's fine. It's all good. Let's move forward.
So after this next challenge, you and Kiri go with Melissa and Ethan to the outpost.
Yes.
Talk to me about this.
More chaos begins. So we get there, and I believe there was something where you could like buy an advantage. And I don't think that me and Kiri had enough tokens to buy it. I think there was something where if you put in the same amount of tokens, you could rock draw for it. And I think we would have if we could. But we didn't. So they just bought it. And then then what happened next, I can't know if this was shown or not, but basically I have my final plea to Melissa where I try to salvage what I can on my end. Basically, I say to her, I think I start crying. I was not purposely trying to be emotionally manipulative. I think I was so overwhelmed with the intensity of the game. I think I started crying. I think I say, like, I gave you my mutiny advantage to prove my loyalty to you, to give you an advantage that could have saved me, that could save me right now. Like, I could, like, if I still had it, I could mutiny over to you and maybe be more safe. But I gave it to you to show you that you're my number one ally. I think I'm in trouble. I don't feel safe. Can you please return the favor and give me that advantage? Like, you have the numbers over there, or at least you have more numbers over there or something. I don't remember what it was, but that was my plea. I don't know if that mathematically makes sense. Will you please give me this advantage to show your trust to me? And then Melissa and Ethan turn away, talk for a little bit, and they turn back and they're like, no, sorry. So, yeah. So then they're like, no, sorry, we're not going to give you the advantage, but we hope you survive to the merge. Good luck. And then we all part ways. So valid strategically, not wanting to give up an advantage. I totally get it. But emotionally, it just made me feel like I care about our relationship more than you do strategically. And the vibe wasn't we dislike you or don't want to work with you. The vibe to me was like, we don't really care what happens to you. That's how it felt. So that's when my loyalty completely shifted over to the new pink situation that we had. So yeah, we go back. I don't know if you've seen this, But we go back, and this time I don't have an advantage to show. So again, I think I'm still like crying because I'm super emotionally upset. Again, I strategically understand why I wasn't given the advantage, but emotionally, I just think I feel spent and overwhelmed. And to prove that I don't have an advantage, I go on to start like taking off all my clothes, trying to show that I don't have an advantage. And I'm like lifting things up, like no actual nudity, but like doing all sorts of things that I like probably shouldn't be doing. And then after I finish, Sandra goes, you know, Hannah, we trust you that you don't have an advantage on your body. We trust you, but we have no way of knowing if you got an advantage and hid it somewhere else. So you didn't need to strip. And then somebody in production goes, I don't know if you were aware of this, but we were live streaming that. So, yeah, that was one of my highlights of the game right there, where I was just like spiraling out of control. I didn't even realize that a camera was there.
If you had the fake hidden immunity idol, what would you do with it?
I mean, I did feel, because of the alliance with, the situation with Charlie, German, and Kiri, so we had the 4 and there was 2, I actually did feel safe. So who knows if, I don't think I would have done anything with it there. So me crying and saying that I felt like I was in the bottom was, crying was not purposely manipulative. Saying that I was on the bottom was like, that was a lie to try to see like what they would do in that situation. Like your former alliance member is like begging you for help. What are you going to do? And the answer was like, not help.
So you're going to the tribal council. There's 6 of you left, but you went from being minority to majority, right? So it's you, Charlie, German, and Kiri on one side, and you have Sandra and Jordan on the other. Talk me through the strategizing for this vote.
So this one I was included on the vote, or I was purposely included. Again, I didn't want to vote out Sandra, but we strategically, okay, hold on, let me rewind. At this point, Sandra had tried to vote out German. So I was like, okay, you tried to vote out my number 1 ally, who is now my actual number 1 ally, because
Melissa dead to me.
Melissa is dead to me now. So this is my actual ride or die alliance until the end at this point. You try to come for him or me, like you're dead to me now. So then I was fine voting out Sandra. Again, I would have preferred to keep her over Jordan, which is, accidentally what happens. But so we do the 2-2 split. I don't know how they vote, but
so Sandra will play her shot in the dark, and Jordan votes Charlie.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So I believe the plan was, if we split the vote and Sandra doesn't play her shot in the dark, or like it's a tie, we will vote out Sandra. I believe that was the plan. And I think even though I didn't love it, because I felt strategically closer with Sandra, she had tried to vote out German. So I was like, okay, we're not working together. We'll go with Jordan now. But it hit, so Jordan goes. And that's when Sandra and German kind of decide, like, let's call a truce. We both tried to vote each other out. It didn't work. The survivor gods are saying, like, let's just work together. And then I think we just kind of like, that group comes together cohesively at that point. And I think we don't have to vote anybody else out. So we're like, good.
You will win the last tribal immunity challenge where Maddie P goes home. But had you lost again, what would have happened?
Oh my gosh. I mean, again, I wouldn't have like felt good about it, but I think at that point, I think Sandra would have been voted out, because that we had our like 4-person thing. I mean, I don't think me, Charlie, or German are getting voted out, because at that point, us 3, I think, are good and strong. And us 3 had a lot of final 3 conversations, and I trusted German completely. And I trusted that he was, I felt like me and Charlie had a little bit of distance, but I trusted that German understood how Charlie was voting and could work with him. Like, even if I couldn't convince Charlie to do stuff, I felt like German and him had a good enough relationship where I could trust anything that German said about him, is what I'm trying to say.
I want to dig in a little bit more to this alliance, because this will end up being one of the alliances of the season. And so talking about working with Charlie, what was that like?
Yeah. So let me see. So, I mean, I think we had an initial connection at the beginning of the game when we both thought we were on the bottom of the Sexy Six Alliance. Then me and him worked together to keep German. So I think I felt like I did feel this special strategic bond with Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I didn't always know where his head was at because I felt like I always saw him talking to lots of people. Obviously, that's what you do in Survivor. You talk to everybody. But I felt like I could never quite tell what he was planning. And I always felt like he had the potential to do something, which is what he did do. So good on him. And also, I think I've heard in his confessionals later, he always talks about needing to make a big move. So I think I could sense that like he was considering doing something. And there were many times when I would say to German, like, I don't know, I think Charlie might be plotting something or planning something. And German was like, okay, I'll go talk to him. And then he'd come back to me like, we're good. And I'd be like, I'll trust you. If you say we're good, I trust both you and Charlie. Because I would talk to Charlie and I just would be like, I'm not sure where his head is at. Like, if he's being honest with me.
One of the things I find interesting so fascinating with this alliance is that Sandra will stick with this alliance, right, and be loyal to this alliance. Even, and I know you said like we made a truce. Hey, you went after German, German after you. Didn't work out. Let's work out. But like, what was working with Sandra like, and why do you think she did choose to stick around with this alliance?
I mean, I think it'll be more clear later when we get to when we get to those votes, because I think events occur. I don't think us six were planning to stick with each other until the very end. I don't think that was anybody's plan. It definitely wasn't my plan. But I think based on the events that occurred, I think we ended up sticking together strategically and, emotionally. So I think at this point in the game, none of us were planning on that.
Okay. So it is the merge, and Sandra's saying it's easy. We have common enemies.
Yes.
You made the merge. Two players are going to re-enter the game. One male, one female competitor. Who would have been best to re-enter for your game?
Jeff definitely would have been the best person to come back as a male player. Again, not that I ever thought he would like throw away his game for me, but at the very least, if I was the vote, I thought he would tell me. And then for a female player, I think I was hoping for Shauna because I liked her and got good vibes from her. And again, I didn't vote her out. I didn't want to vote her out. I guess like you could argue like I let it happen, but I could safely say to her like I didn't want you to go because I didn't. So I was excited about Shauna and I was neutral about Maddie P. I was like, I don't know him. He seems nice. Nothing better than I think I was just most concerned about Blake coming back. And most concerned about Melanie coming back. Again, I wanted to work with her, but then I did vote her out. So I was like, that there could be bad blood there.
So what was your plan of attack or agenda for the merge? Like what were things you were looking to do or wanted to get done when you linked back up with all the original Akita members?
So I had such a hard time because for me personally, I had a very close emotional bond with Melissa. So even though I felt really strategically angry at her and made all those comments and like us, the new pink tribes, like swapped pink, we talked about like how much we need to stick together and get those people out. The moment I got back together with Melissa and Trinica, I was like, I love these people. I want to work with these people again. And so I didn't really know, honestly, like what I was going to do. Per usual, I was like, I don't want to vote out German, Trinica, or Melissa. But besides those three people, like I was like, I want to work with all these. I want to work with these people. And strategically, that doesn't make any sense. But like those are the people I didn't want to vote out. So I kind of got caught in the middle again because I felt like I had the option to either go back to the Sexy Six Alliance. And as you can see, that whole alliance still survived. So part of me was like, should we just go back to that? But then I also had I went through this traumatic experience with New Pink. And one other really like very, very quick thing that happened was when we did finally win that final immunity challenge, the other tribe contested it and said that we had cheated. which we had not. But I think that led to even more emotional strife between the
Yeah.
groups, because I think if they thought we cheated, they probably didn't like us for that. We felt like you accusing of us of cheating makes us feel like you don't even believe we could win this on our own merit. So I think there was some emotional strife even from that. And us going back, we were very like, we're staying strong. We're going to go against these people. So there was this like rah, rah, it's us till the end vibe when we got back to our swap tribe. Yeah.
So you merge, you're rejoined by Shauna and Maddie P. How was the merge feast for you?
It was amazing. I knew to actually look and see if there were like clues in the food. Obviously, other people, I think maybe Tony swiped it from the fries or something, or somebody else.
Gary did.
Okay, Kiri. Okay. But I remember thinking, oh, I should look, and I didn't find anything. And I think that's when like the merge feast is when I just like was like, oh no, like once again, there's nobody I want to vote out. And in this case, actually, the person I was least close to was Maddie P. So probably the person I personally alone would have wanted to vote out most was Maddie P, which obviously didn't work out. And I didn't even try to make that happen. That's where my head was at.
So talk to me about reconnecting with Shauna at the merge.
Yeah. So I think there was some hesitancy because obviously she doesn't have proof of the votes. But I told her how I voted, and I think I said, I still want to work with you. I think Sandra probably talked to her and Maddie P. Since I didn't like listen to her interview, I don't know what she said, but I felt good with her. I felt like hesitantly like I wasn't like she's my number one ally, but I was like, I want her to stay. I really didn't want her to get idled out when she did.
There's two players you haven't met until this moment, and they're Carl and Maddie P. What were they like?
Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned about Maddie P, like he was very friendly. I felt nervous about like his like social game, but I also like obviously he wins, but I felt like he didn't have that much win equity, because many times people feel like they don't want to vote for somebody who has left the game. You know what I mean? Like they almost feel like you've lost and you got a bonus to come back in. Like you shouldn't win because you were voted out. You were bested by the game. So I kind of I felt scared of him socially, but not like he was like a threat to win. And then Carl was like over the top and crazy, but he was super friendly towards me and was like, I love Melissa. You love Melissa. We're good. You love Kiri. I love Kiri. We're good. So once again, I was in that situation where I was like, I don't have a target. I don't want to vote anybody out. I'm making it sound like I have no strategy at all. I'm just explaining my emotional state. My emotional state is like, I don't like voting people out unless they've done something to me. Which at that point, yes, I was like, I had been frustrated with Melissa, but I just felt, again, talking to her, I felt really good friends with her. So I just, again, wanted to work with her.
From my understanding, the merge happens at a really rapid pace because you go kind of from the feast to immediately having this all-night challenge. How long did you stay in this challenge?
It felt like I stayed in like 10 minutes, but somebody told like, okay, so let me rewind. So when they said that the people who were out could go back to camp, me and some other people immediately say, okay, y'all, we don't want to just be trapped out here alone. Let's all go back around the middle so we don't lose out on all the strategizing time. So I thought that meant let's wait for some reward to step down, or let's wait for the first check-in or something.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that meant the majority of people were just going to leave. And the problem was they put me and Melissa away from everybody else, not together, but like we were all, they put people down, they would like put us in line. And then me and Melissa were like around the corner of the building. Or something. Yeah, we couldn't see where anybody was. So I didn't realize that basically everybody had left except for me, her, Ethan, Shauna, maybe somebody else at some point. But basically, like, we were just waiting there. I knew she was still there. And then finally, like, they came back around and checked on us and said, like, and I said, like, how many people are left? And they were like, oh, you're in the final 4 or something. And I was like, no, I'm not. And like, I'm quitting. And like, I literally ran to Melissa and I was like, Melissa, we have to go. Everyone is back at camp. We have to go right now. And so I think both of us were like, okay, let's go. And we like run back and we're like, we need to get back to camp. So I think this is an example of like my mind has shifted. We're like, yes, we got on the wrong page, but I am back on the same page with her. And I think I have a similar conversation with Trinica where Trinica even says to me, like, I feel betrayed about how you used the mutiny advantage on her and not on me. I thought we were closer.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. And we get back to our like a better relationship, or what I believed was a better relationship. And same with Melissa.
So ultimately, Ethan is going to win this immunity challenge. One of my favorite stories I've heard about the merge is that the way it's described is you almost scold Ethan for trying to turn on Melissa.
Yes. Yes. So basically, I didn't understand what happened. And I know that it had to do with like, now I know it had to do with like an idol situation, but I just felt really, I don't know, again, protective of my alliance member. And I was like, why would you do that? We were good. Again, was that strategically smart? No. But again, what I'm saying is like, I will blow up my own game for my alliance members if I feel close with them. And that was me being like angry at him for doing that. And I also, maybe it definitely came off as scolding, but it came off as confusion because I didn't understand what happened because Melissa was like, oh no, I'm good with him now. And I was like, why are we good with him? He tried to vote you out. Let's vote him out. Like I couldn't comprehend what happened at the time. And now I understand it was more complicated with an idol and he got scared and all this stuff. But it was like something fishy is going on here. Why did this happen? And why are you both cool with each other now?
So talking about the strategizing for this merge vote, because it sounds like you're getting pulled in two different directions. You have your original alliance from the Green Tribe, but you also have this new Pink alliance.
Yes. So I don't honestly, I can't say where I go with my allegiance, but I didn't feel like when I was talking to both groups, I think my long-term strategy was go with Pink for a little bit to get out some people that I'm not close with on the other side or have said things about me, such as Tony had said he didn't like the comments I made regarding the Meldrum and things. So I was like, okay, get rid of him. Carl, somebody told me, I think Charlie had told me, and again, I don't know if this was a made up lie or not, but that Carl was throwing my name out. So I was like, okay, get rid of him. That's fine. So in my head, I was almost like, okay, I'm going to work with this group to get rid of Tony and Carl. And then I'm willing to make a move then and switch back or mix it up. Again, maybe that wouldn't have been the right strategic move, but that is what I was willing to consider and do. Obviously, that's not what ended up working out, but that's where my head was at that point. I wasn't like Pink strong all the way to the end.
Is there anything else about this opening merge vote you want to talk about? Because you and your alliance, essentially, plus Shauna, all will vote for Tony.
Yeah. So this was a really difficult vote for me because one thing I did in Outlast, which I knew was bad gameplay, was if I knew someone was going, or if I knew I had to lie to somebody, I would just avoid them until.
Yeah, I can see it.
I would just like not talk to the person getting voted out or not talk to somebody else who was in another alliance and just be like, oh, I'll talk to you later. I'm talking to this person, and just avoid them to avoid lying. And so I made the conscious decision in this game. I am going to not do that. And if somebody wants to talk to me and I have to lie to their face, I will. So then I made the conscious decision, like, I'm going to go with Pink and I'm going to like lie to the faces of all the people on Green. And it felt like really awful. And I wanted to still work with like Melissa and Trinica after that, but I didn't know how to lie to them. And also like I didn't know what the right route was to like lie to their faces and then get back in good with them, you know? So that was my turmoil at that point.
Do you think there's a world where you are upfront with them saying, hey, I'm sorry, I think I'm going with this original Pink Alliance right now, but that's just for this vote?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I think that Trinica might have been open to that. And I even think that the next vote, I think me, Trinica, and German have a conversation where we're like, all right, we're not voting together, but maybe we can vote together later and let's just not vote for each other. But I think I was scared of saying we're just not voting together now because I'd said that to Tony before and he didn't like that. So it just I didn't feel like that was the right option at the time. But that maybe could have worked. I don't know. It didn't feel like the vibe.
Well, a lot happens this tribal council. Tony will play an idol for himself successfully, negating 7 votes, and that leaves opposition unopposed, and Shauna ends up getting 4 votes and going home. Were you expecting, or did you know Shauna was going to be the recipient of their votes?
I don't know, honestly. Like, I feel like since I was talking to that group, they must have told me possible names.
It also sounds like it was a little bit more last minute because no one could land on a name that everyone was happy with.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of chaos about it. And I don't know. I also don't know why I think I had told Melissa and them that like Tony was an option or I'd heard his name. And I don't know. I wish that since I'd said that, I wish we had done a completely different name. You know, like I think Pink strategically could have done better because I think we let that name leak. And
yeah.
So I think that was a poor choice strategically. But yeah, I don't know why.
Trinica says that all of that Okino 2.0 Alliance thought you and German were with them.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But then we must have known it was Shauna. But maybe we knew it was Shauna, but like we didn't care because we thought we were voting out Tony. Like maybe we were like, okay, you can vote for Shauna.
Were you surprised by German's idol play that round?
Did he play an idol? I don't even remember.
He played an idol that round.
On himself?
On himself.
I mean, I probably was surprised, but also not because I think that German always felt targeted by that group.
And his name had been floated around that round, it sounded like.
Yes. Yeah, I think what's confusing is like if, as Trinica just said, everybody thought we were voting with him. I think people didn't know who was being honest at that point. And I was almost shocked that those two groups actually stayed true, like actually stuck together. I was expecting there to be more stragglers or more incorrect voting or something.
So this next round, Ethan wins immunity in that push me, pull you challenge. You're holding the metal rod in place. Are these two alliances like with the Tony just not working out? It's like, all right, we're going to stick together and try this one more time, or what's the vibe between these two groups like now that you actually have things more solidified?
So I think there was still wiggle room at that point, because I think me and Melissa talked, and I think me and Melissa talked, and we were like, okay. I was like, I know I lied to your face, but that's because I didn't feel good about the mutiny advantage. Or like there was some conversation, and then we both agreed, like, okay, for this next vote, can we just find a name that works for both of us and work together moving forward? And I think we said, yes, let's do that. And then I don't know what happened in the chaos of like having like I think things would go so differently on CBS Survivor when you have a lot of time. But it's like talk to somebody. It's like I talked to her then. And then I never talked to her again until the vote. It's like I had a plan to work with her. And then I talked to the other Pink people. And then we had a plan. And then we went to tribal. So I think I was still willing at that point. Like, I want to work together. But the problem was I think she wanted to work together to vote out. I think the name she threw out as a possibility was Charlie. And I think I wanted to work together to vote out Carl. And that's not who, she wanted to vote. So I think it was just like not the ability to like align together. But it's again, I was still willing to like work to flip around at that point. But then like tension started getting very high, and it became clear that it felt like flipping was no longer an option after the next vote.
Something else that happens kind of around this time is German publicly finds an idol that Kiri had the clue to.
Yes. Yes. So I think, well, as you know, as you've heard and seen, I think Kiri was saying, "Hey, can you grab this for me?" And he just
Hmm.
takes it for himself.
Hmm.
So the German villain edit continues there.
Going back to Melissa, do you so what is there a name on your side you even have to target, or if maybe if you vote out Carl, you say, all right, give me Carl, and then I'll be happy that the maybe flip on one of my own.
Yeah, I mean, strategically, I think that would make more sense,
Hmm.
or to actually talk about it out loud. Because again, the reason why I felt against Carl is somebody had said, Carl has thrown your name out as the next possible vote.
Hmm.
So yeah, maybe if I had just gone to her or someone and said, like, okay, I've heard this about him. I know you want to work with him, but I don't feel safe having this person in the game as like strategically if they're
Hmm.
coming for me. And again, I'm not even sure if he actually said that. I think maybe Charlie said that to him to somewhere in my brain it's like Charlie said that was like a lie or something. So I may have been targeting him for incorrect reasons. And then there was a conversation with me, German, and Trinica where we had said, okay, us three, let's just make sure us three make it through the next few rounds and then we can see what we can do together.
Hmm.
And me and German even said to Trinica, hey, do you want to flip over and be with us? And I believe she said, no, I've already voted with these people. I feel closer with these people. This is how we want to go. And we were just like, great, that's fine. Once again, me and Trinica, open line of communication. We're not voting together, but we're not voting for each other.
Hmm.
And the problem was, I think that we had said, okay, Trinica, we're not targeting you. And she said, okay, we won't vote for you or German. And then the next name was German. So then I think we felt like, okay, we keep saying don't vote for German and this whole
Hmm.
group just keeps doing it. So I think he felt targeted. I felt like he was being targeted and it just felt like, okay, you are trying to vote out my number one ally. So I can't work with you. Again, I don't know if that's strategically the right way to play, but I just felt very loyal to him and very upset that he kept being gunned after.
Yeah, so Carl will get 6 votes from your side. German gets 5 votes from the other side. Carl goes home. You your lines is officially the majority if it wasn't before now. And at the final 10, are things really set in stone at this point?
I mean, I think this is the point that I was open
Hmm.
to doing something
Hmm.
interesting. But the problem was that I think after the first vote, Melissa had approached me and said, hey, I'm still willing to work with you. I think after this vote, the vibe I got was like that was no longer an option.
Hmm.
And strategically, I think it would have made more sense for me to go over and initiate contact since I had lied to her repeatedly. So I
Hmm.
get why she wouldn't approach me. But I think I felt like that door was closed. And I think I
Hmm.
almost felt like, uh-oh, I lost my window. I have to be all in over here. Again, and I felt very loyal to those people. I just also, for me, felt like I had had a very strong alliance and friendship with Melissa and Trinica. So I wanted to work with them in some capacity and didn't want them to go.
So these next 4 votes, Tony, then Melissa, then Ethan, then Trinica, um, are they straightforward, or is there more intrigue going on there with potential flirting with flipping? Or at that point, you're just like, there's nothing, like, I have to be locked in because there's no point for me trying to go over to this minority.
Yeah. So I think at that point, to me, we were locked in and there
Hmm.
was no going back. Um, Partially because I felt like I had like burned those bridges,
Hmm.
and partially because just the vibe of the game became very intense emotionally, I think. And
Hmm.
like the vibe, like to me, watching like say CBS Survivor or the vibe on Outlast when I played was very much just like there's a blind side, people are lying. It's like you go, you have a few minutes where you're upset, and then it's like, damn guys, you got me. All right, what are we doing next? Who's working with who? Let's go, let's
Hmm.
mix it up. Like that was very much the vibe when I played Outlast. And that wasn't the vibe here. The vibe was a very us versus them vibe. And it just felt very emotionally intense.
Hmm.
And I didn't know how to work with that because if the vibe had stayed like, all right, y'all, you got me. You lied to my face again, but what can we do now? I think I would have been willing to like do things and like flip around, because again, like I clearly had this like strong emotional loyalty to the girls over there, but it didn't feel like the door was open in that way. Um,
What
yeah.
do you think gave rise to that kind of vibe or ethos to the game?
I don't know. I know that it's a very intense emotional game. So I definitely understand that it doesn't feel good to be lied to or blindsided. And I don't know what led to that exactly in this particular game. I know that once only Trinica and Ethan were left that night, we together collectively were like, y'all, the vibes are really bad. Something feels like not good and like it feels toxic and not fun anymore. So we like made up this like hashtag better tomorrow. We were like, we are committing to have a better day tomorrow, and we're all gonna have fun together and be nice together and just have good vibes. And and then it did feel fake and forced at certain points, but like it at least didn't feel hostile. It felt sort of like, well, we're the best that we can.
Yeah. So let's say let's say the game is different. You have the ability to flip. Was there someone in your alliance you're looking to be flipping on?
Yes. So I'm not just saying this because he won.
But it also helps confirm it because he won. It
also helps confirm that I had the right idea. Matty P, I felt like socially was so good. No, everybody loved him. Nobody wanted to get rid of him. I didn't feel strategically close with him. And I think I've realized my strategy in general is just keep people who I'm strategically close to, because then I'm just like well insulated and I won't have votes coming my way. And I just didn't feel close to him in that way, strategically or emotionally. So I think at that point, when after Carl went, if the door had been open, I think I would have been willing to like flip back and vote out Matty P. Again, would that be strategically smart? Maybe not. But that is what I was willing to do. And like all the decisions I made like with German. So I think like we together would sit down, run the numbers. Okay, this person votes this way. What do we do? If this person plays an idol, what do we do? And so I don't think I would have just randomly flipped by myself. I think I would have only done something if he had felt comfortable. I don't think he would have felt comfortable, to be honest, now that I'm talking about it out loud. But maybe he would have. I don't know. Or at least been willing to like flip for one and then flip back, or I don't know, maybe the game would have turned into more of a voting block area instead of two big alliances. Like we're all mixing and matching based on our own personal end games until the end. Like I would love to play a game like that where, you know, it's like you can work with different people at different points to like get your own strategy, you know, further in the game.
German confirms I would have been comfortable taking out Maddie.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so, okay. We both knew he was a threat. Okay.
I mean, you do both vote for him at Final Six, right? So that like that you do actualize that. So I mean, even when there was just Trinica remaining, was there any ever serious? Was there ever a point where you had what you felt more serious conversation with Melissa, Ethan, or Trinica, saying like, "Here is a plan that's going to involve you," or is it always just like, "Sorry, the game is what it is at this point"?
It was hard. Okay, this is the reason. This is another thing that happened. Basically, me and German were led to believe, and again, I don't know what is true at this point, but we were led to believe that if me and him got to the end, the Okina or the Green 2.0 would not vote for me or German. So, and if we got to the end with any Okina 2.0 people, they would get all the votes, no matter what kind of game everybody else played, from those people who were voted out from that alliance. That was based on like we were basically like verbally told that that's the case. Based on that, it made it impossible for any of us to keep any of them. Like I understand you could make the argument like, okay, if you're at the bottom of this alliance, you should flip over. But basically, we were told that if any of them get to the end, they get all those 5 votes. So that's just like, you're automatically almost going to lose if you get to any of them. So I think that hearing that is what cemented us all to stay strong together, because it's like, okay, I might lose, but at least I'm not going to automatically lose all the votes if I get to the end. So it was unfortunate, because it's like, again, I wanted to work with people, but it was made clear like I had no chance of winning against any of them, no matter what I did. So
you're on a path to be in the final 6 with the Breakfast Club, which, by the way, have you seen the movie?
yes.
Okay, cool. So at least some people know that Lions had seen the movie. So you're on the way to the final 6 with the Breakfast Club. How are you positioning yourself for that point?
Yeah. So this is another interesting learning that I had about myself. So at this point, I was mentally checked out of the game. As I mentioned before, for me, it was so emotionally intense that I basically felt like my impression was, I'm not going to be, these people don't want to be friends with me outside the game. Like the vibe I got, I'm not saying this was the truth, but the feeling I had was that these people don't want to work with me strategically and don't like me personally and don't want to be friends with me outside the game. So I felt like that was due to the fact that I flipped strategically. Even though that's a valid part of Survivor, I felt like me flipping is what led to that. And I felt like I don't want to leave this game with no friends. So I literally made the active choice. I would rather not lie to people for the rest of the game and lose and be out 6th than make deals and lie to people and have to go back on them and lose more friends. I emotionally couldn't handle it. And like, that's not the case now. Like, it's fine. Like, we're all on good terms now. It's fine. But at the time, it felt so intense that I was like, I would rather lose than. So I did not set myself up. And that was like a strategic blunder, but that was the conscious emotional decision like I made at the time.
So in that case, who was your final 3, and were you telling everyone like, yeah, this is my final 3? Sorry, you're not in it.
Basically, I was like, I'm loyal to German no matter what, and I will never vote him out. Which I've learned is also a strategic blunder to make yourself seem that close of a pair. But I think my ideal final 3 for me was me, him, and Kiri. And the problem was, but since I wasn't sure if that's what he wanted, because I think he wanted me, him, and Charlie, I didn't know which direction we were going with. I didn't want to make a commitment to anybody and have to go back on it.
Were you having these conversations with German about like, how are we going to get through the 6, or is this all things you're just thinking about on your own?
I think we talked about like, who's our ideal final 3, but like, I don't think we had a good, clear conversation. Okay, at 6, who are we with? At 5, who are we with? And that is probably partially my fault in that, like, I think he possibly was willing to have those conversations, but I don't think I was emotionally receptive to it, and I was initiating those. But like, I think that if me and him had actually worked together, we could have done it, because yes, Charlie, Maddie P, and Sandra made that final 3 alliance at the merge. However, I truly believe, and from what I've heard, me, German, and Kiri could have had a final 3 at that final 3 if Kiri she knew who they were voting. If she played the idol on me, she would have had the numbers. Like, there was absolutely a path forward. And she's told me, again, I don't know if this is true, but she has told me that if me or German had just committed and been like, it's us 3 to the end, let's do it. Again, I don't know who would have followed through with it, but if we'd actually given that verbal confirmation, she was willing to go with us. But apparently neither of us were really willing to say it. Speak for German, but for me, it was because I was like, literally like, I love this girl and I want to be her friend after this. And I don't know if that's going to happen if I lie to her, which seems crazy, but like, that was the emotional state I was in.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges of these games, because Outlast, you had a 4-day experience or 3-day?
4-day, yeah.
You had a 4-day experience, and you were there for the full 4 days. At this point, you're on day 7 of Reelfoot, right? So you're approaching doubling perhaps your time in Outlast. I mean, again, Outlast, like that first like day or so, like there's no voting, kind of like Reelfoot, but still, the emotional stress is really hard. And I think that was at least my experience the first time I played. I had no idea how poorly I would handle it because I had no idea what to expect.
Yes, yes. I didn't know that I would react that way. And it's easy to like, I think now if I like, well, I have played again in another game, but like now
Mm-hmm.
if I play again, I think I will be able to handle my emotions better and realize like, you know what? Like it's okay if people don't want to work with me or don't like me. Like that's okay, just move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like emotionally it may be tough, but I think I would be more likely be able to strategically move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I didn't know that I would to like shut down emotionally like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, again, like that's like we don't just play to like win, we also play to learn about ourselves and have deep psychological experiences, and that's like absolutely what like happened to me there.
I mean, if there wasn't some trauma, why bother, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, is there anything about the Melissa, Ethan, or Trinica vote outs you want to talk about?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The Trinica vote was, I mean, the Melissa and Ethan were pretty straightforward. For all of those, we basically were like splitting the vote. Like every conversation, it's like, let's split the vote. If this person plays their shot in the dark, vote for this person. If this
Yeah.
person doesn't, like basically enabling us. So for every vote, we would have an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for the next one. So that like if the vote is split and one person has played their shot in the dark already and failed, let's keep them because they can't play their shot in the dark the next time.
Mm-hmm.
So there still was like a lot of strategy. It was just a lot of steamrolling strategy. And I will say that like Trinica and Ethan fought really, really hard. And they like actually came to us with pitches and said, like, here's why you should work with us. Here's what we can do for you. And I really respected and appreciated that because like they went down fighting really hard. It just was impossible to go with them when I was literally told like you would never get any votes against either of them. So it was just like, if I'm going to automatically lose 5 jury votes, how could I go with you? You know?
Are either of them telling you like you're gonna be the first one out of your 6?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but I just didn't. I don't know, honestly. I don't feel like that was the narrative that was getting pushed. I think the narrative was more like, we can do something together, use me as a vote, let's work together.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think what was pitched was like, okay, let's do a final 3. You, me, like Trinica, Ethan, Hannah, because we'll split the votes between the green people and you'll get the pink votes. That was the pitch that was given to me where I'm like, okay, but then what if I don't have to split any votes?
Yeah, I can
like,
see it.
Like if I go with me, German, and Charlie, you're forced to vote for one of us. Maybe it'll be me, maybe not. But I think that's another reason why me and German did less planning, because since we had been told publicly no one will ever vote for you, it seemed like those are the 2 perfect people to go to the end. Even if we're not set up, those are the perfect people to be in the final 3 with, because it's almost like you'll just win by default. That's the narrative we were being given, which is not necessarily the truth, but that's what we were led to believe. So I almost felt like I don't need to do anything because that's the perfect person to go to the end with, a 0 vote finalist, you know?
And so, because when you are eventually targeted at the 6, I imagine, at least from talking to Kiri, and I imagine I'll hear more of this, will be like, Hannah's a big threat. Like, and that's why Hannah had to go first. So are you concerned about threat management, or are you just thinking like, hey, they're saying I'm a 0 vote finalist, like that's a weapon to my advantage. People should want to keep me.
Yeah, I felt like, yes, people should want to keep me for that reason. And I didn't feel like I was a big threat. You know what I mean? Like I hadn't won any immunities. I got the mutiny advantage and like completely fumbled the bag with it. So it's like misused an advantage, didn't win any immunities, didn't play any advantages, would be a 0 vote finalist. I already knew from my experience in Outlast, I didn't feel like I was a good speaker for Final Tribal Council. I know that I made one comment that I think really blew up my game at Tribal, where I said something along the line. I said something that made everybody be like, oh no, she's a good speaker. And that made people like afraid. And I don't, from my experience in Outlast, I don't feel like a strong Final Tribal Council speaker. So I just felt like Sandra's already won. So, you know, she's good at Final Tribal Council. Maddie P is an excellent speaker. And so it just felt like Kiri has won immunities, played advantages. Like it just felt like it felt like a no-brainer to me that like me, Charlie, or German should be people to bring to the end. Some combination of us.
Are you good fast forwarding the final 6?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's final 6. Kiri as an idol. The challenge is Reelfoot trivia. How do you do in this challenge?
I completely flunk it. I didn't study at all. I literally was putting random names down. Like they'd be like, what is the name of the swap tribe the 3rd season? And I would have to like make up a funny word. Like it was literally embarrassing to the point that I got out so early that I asked production, I was like, I know I'm out, but can I just play along for fun? And they were like, yeah, you can just keep playing and we'll keep tallying your score, but like you're out. So that's the level of how bad I did at that. Because I didn't study. I knew I should have, but I just didn't have the mental capacity to study the binder they gave us.
So Kiri wins immunity. She's sitting on an idol. What is the strategy for this round like? Because eventually you and German will vote for Maddie P and everyone else will vote for you.
Yes. So okay, I'm trying to remember this one. So I think this is when I go into a panic and don't really play correctly. I mean, it's already too late at that point. Like I think at this point it doesn't matter what I do because I've already set myself up poorly by not committing with Kiri. Like, so I think I'm already dead in the water no matter what I do at this point. But I panicked because when they said, okay, it's time to strategize, I say something to Charlie like, okay, who are you voting for? And he's like, I'm not sure. And I'd never gotten that answer from him before. I'd always gotten the person that we had said. So I said, Charlie, you don't know who you're voting for. We said we're voting for this person. Are you voting for me? And he said, well, like that's an option. Everybody's an option. And then I was like, Charlie, can you promise me you're not voting for me? And he said, well, I know how much like giving your word means to you, Hannah. So I don't want to make you a promise that I can't keep. And I was like, oh my gosh, Charlie's voting for me. So then I panic and I like run off to like everybody. And like, again, this is not strategically smart, but I panicked and I'm like, this person is saying my name. So I'm like, I'm voting Charlie. I'm voting Charlie. Everyone has to vote Charlie. Again, not strategically helpful for anybody else, but I'm panicking and want to vote him out. Then
Charlie is saying, that was my biggest blunder. I couldn't lie to you like that.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I had no agency to do anything at that point. But so I had a feeling I could be going. So it would have been more exciting to be blindsided, but I was not. I'll just say, Charlie, I would not have been offended if you lied to me because I know that's part of the game. But I appreciated the respect you gave me. But basically, I was panicking. I go to German. I was like, I think he's voting for me. German says, no, he's not. We're voting together. We're forcing a tie. And that obviously didn't happen. We know that Kiri has the idol. So I'm like, I obviously should have gone to Kiri and been like, I heard my name. Here's why you need to keep me because you're the biggest threat to win. Like that's what I should have done. But I was in such a panic that I was just like running around like a chicken with its head cut off, like just shouting like, we need to vote out Charlie, which is not helpful. But then like there was hope. Like then when she played the idol on German, I was like, oh my gosh, does she know they're voting German? And then when I saw my name, I was like, well, but again, I also feel like for her, I know hindsight is 2020, but if she had successfully played the idol on me, I think that would have A, set her up with the numbers, and B, been an epic move. Like, I feel like it's not that exciting to play an idol incorrectly, but to play it correctly and save somebody, I think that's an amazing resume item if you get to the final 3. So I'm going to blame Kiri for both of us.
So let's do some what ifs.
Yeah.
Let's say Kiri plays her idol for you.
Yes.
Maddie goes out with 2 votes. That leaves 2 people who had voted for you, Charlie and Sandra. At the final 5, who do you want to target?
I mean, not German per usual. I mean, again, like probably strategically the smartest final 3 for me probably to win is me, Sandra, and Charlie. But that's not what I would have done. I think I would have gone with what would have been worse for me, Kiri, and Kiri and German, of course. So next to go would probably be, I mean, honestly, I think probably the next person I would have wanted to vote out was Charlie because he said my name again. That's probably who I would have wanted to go, and I probably would have felt most confident with the other three trying to take me somewhere. And then after that, I guess I would have wanted to vote Sandra out. Again, maybe not strategically correct, but emotionally.
If German came to you and said, "I want to blindside Kiri at Final Four," would you?
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, not in the emotional state that I was in. If I played again, maybe I would have been willing to.
Going back to more what ifs, beyond kind of being emotionally checked out of the game and therefore not setting up that final six, looking back at the merge, were there things that you maybe could have done that helped change the trajectory of it?
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that? Besides,
what could you have done earlier in the merge to help you at final six?
Yeah, I mean, if I had not been emotionally checked out, actually making those earlier alliances, like a 5 within, like a 4 or 5 within it, you know what I mean? Like sort of that like Russian doll situation of alliances, because I was just floating in there. Like I had casual conversations with people, like I think there's definitely like, could a final 3 be me, Charlie, and German? Could a final 3 be me, Kiri, and German? There was a conversation with Maddie P, Sandra, me, and German. We're like, okay, this is the 4, and then we'll duke it out from there. But like all of those, I don't want to say they felt like fake plans, but like there's a difference between the like, ooh, this would be fun, I feel good with you, versus like, we're locked in, I feel good. And like they had that like, I feel good with you, like it's an option. Like I'm open to working with you. That was more the vibe. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think actually locking in one of those groups, I think Charlie had already committed to that 3, but I don't know if maybe if I had been more awake, I don't know if German could have gotten him back. I don't know. We would have to ask Charlie and German about that.
If Sandra had been voted out at the merge vote instead of Shauna, do you think that would change anything? I mean, granted, it changes Sandra not being there, Shauna being there, but like trajectory-wise, and do you think that would have changed the trajectory?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how, but I think it would have been, because yeah, I think it would have, but I don't have a concrete explanation. But yeah, I mean, because then there's a final 3 alliance with like Sandra, Maddie P, and Charlie. Maybe Shauna wouldn't have gone with that. Maybe that final 3 wouldn't have existed. Maybe like there was a talk between like me, Sandra, and Kiri. Should we do an all girls 3 thing? And I know that Sandra has said, she says that, but she's not really into that. Whereas I do feel into that. And I'm not sure about Kiri, but if Kiri and Shauna did feel good about that, I don't think I would have cut German, but maybe they could have secretly cut him and ended up with a final 3 girl thing. So I do think it opens up the games in a different way if Shauna stays.
So you're voted out at final 6. You are on the jury. How was being on the jury? This is a new experience for you. Yes,
I love being on the jury. I enjoyed being on the jury much more than I enjoyed being in the final 2. Like it was just so fun, like watching the players play and like eating, like we were eating like our candy and our Twizzlers and being like, oh, that person is so stupid for making that move, and like I can go back and drink and shower and have fun. And like initially it was like a shock, like I didn't feel emotionally good at first, but I loved it.
Because you're the last vote of day 7, I believe. Right?
Yeah. Yes. And I instantly felt like relief, like, oh my gosh, I don't have to go and sleep outside. Because also at that point, the horrible rash had already started like spreading all over my body in the game, because I'm not able to like shower or change my clothes, to the point that like every time we go somewhere, like I like take off my sports bra and then just put it on right before we do a challenge, because it was so painful to wear. And like the night before I'm voted out, like Maddie P, who's a pharmacist, so has like medical degree and such, he actually like literally in the dark with our like one lone flashlight that wasn't stolen from us or taken out, he like does like a medical exam of me in the dark and is like, hey, I think you have this, Hannah, and he's like going through the medical like case, like helping me, like giving me meds and like putting cream on me and stuff. And so I just was like physically not in a good state, mentally not in a good place. So when I was voted out, I just felt like relief. Like I didn't even feel angry. Like people were crying, Sandra was crying, and I just was like, it's good. I get to go shower and eat. Like, have fun, y'all. You get to go and and sleep outside again. Have fun with that.
Were you surprised with the trajectory of the rest of the game, at least with who came fifth and fourth and who was in the final travel?
I was surprised. I didn't realize that there was that secret Final Three alliance, which was very sneaky. So I'm very impressed with that. I wasn't surprised they took out Kiri next, because I think to me, she was a big threat to win. And then I was surprised that I don't know if I should say surprised, but it was very emotionally difficult to see Charlie turn on German, just because they had such like a close relationship and such like, I don't know what relationship to say. Like, I don't want to say like, definitely don't want to say like father son, but definitely like older brother, younger brother. I don't know. It was like this weird, like, I feel like us three had this weird dysfunctional relationship where I was constantly being like, German, Charlie is doing something sketchy. Can you go talk to him? And then German would talk to him, and then me and Charlie would talk and be like, okay, we're good. And like, it was emotionally difficult to see that. And like, obviously that is like, I don't know what was the right strategic move, but it was hard to watch. And again, this is not me being angry about it or saying anything about it. It was just emotionally challenging.
As a jury member, what are you looking for in a winner?
I'm looking for the person who had the most strategic control over the game and who I want to represent my season. So yeah, I mean, ultimately that, like, obviously it's like emotionally tough for me. I want, somebody I'm emotionally close with to win. But as I said, like, the person I was least emotionally close to after the merge was Maddie P, and I still voted for him. Like, the person I felt closest to were Charlie and Sandra, and I just felt like the way Maddie P spoke at the final tribal, he explained his game. Like, I felt like Sandra had a lot of control and made a lot of big moves, but she wasn't able to articulate it clearly. And I don't know, like, she was able to articulate it clearly when she played and won like Survivor Angelica, and I don't know if she just ran out of steam or what, but like, I went in being open to vote. My vote was not made up when I went in, but like, Maddie P just blew it, like the ball out of the park. It was amazing. Like, he just spoke so eloquently and explained his game. And whether it was true or not, he made it seem like he had all this strategic control.
Hey, if the jury believes it, that's all that matters.
Yep. The whole perception is reality thing.
Were you expecting the vote to be the way it was at Final Travel?
Yes. Because we had a jury roundtable before, and basically I knew that Shauna was going to bat for Sandra, and I thought she made a lot of good points. So I was open to voting for Sandra. But I felt like people were in that conversation were leaning towards Maddie P, and people, it felt like people were leaning in that way even beforehand. I don't know. I can't speak if people's minds were made up, but that's the vibe I got.
How was the after party?
So fun. It was great. The only issue is like, I wish that I had more time for like deep one-on-ones with everybody, just because like, I think since it was such a deep, like, intense emotional experience, like, it would have been nice to just like get everything out. And like, with some people I had that, like, actually surprisingly Tony is the person who I've had the most one-on-one conversations with. So it's just funny how we were like, I was like going at him the whole game, and yet somehow he's one of the people who I feel the best with now, just because we've had multiple conversations where we're like, we're good, it was a miscommunication, we're good, I love you. So it's just odd how like relationships can change so much like after the game.
Is there anything else about your game you'd like to talk about that maybe we haven't had a chance to dig into?
Yes, my one other comment I want to throw out there is just that my favorite moment of the entire game was when me and German were talking and strategizing about something, and I think this was maybe, I don't know when this was, But once again, he peeks under his hat that he's wearing. I don't know what look if this was the merge look or the swap look or what. And he just goes like, Hannah, I am having so much fun playing this game with you. Like strategizing with you, hang out with you. It's just fun. Like it's just I'm having a fun experience with you. And I think it was like that type of like genuine connection that like that's when I like knew we were good. And like when we got into the final 8 or 6 or 7 or something near to the end, I remember us looking at each other and I was like, so do you think we should go to the end together or not? And I feel like he said something like, I don't know if I should go to the end with you. Aww. But he was like, I think I'm going to do it. Even if it's like bad for my game, I think we should just go together. And I was like, yeah, I feel the same way. And I think also it was valid strategically because I think we both had played closely together. So it would come down to like who could explain it more. And I think we both felt like, yeah, let's duke it out verbally in final tribal council and see how it goes. I mean, and then our alliance, we were called the Bridesmaids Alliance because both of us came in second and lost by 1 jury vote in Outlast, him for season 1 and me for season 2. So I think I felt like I related to him and felt like if I can't win, I want him to win, like genuinely. Like if I were a 0 vote finalist with him in the final 3 or 2, I genuinely felt like I would have been really happy. Not that I wasn't trying to win, but I don't know. I just fell into it. Yeah, I think that's my last comment. That was my favorite. Those were 2 of my favorite moments of the game. And I'll just add also like Melissa did my hair for the jury and had one-on-ones with other people. So, no ill will now. It was just a very intense emotional experience at the time.
I have some rapid fire questions for you as we close out here.
Yes, I'm ready.
Who surprised you the most out there?
Okay, the name that comes into my head is Charlie because Charlie. You want an explanation or just leave it at that?
You can elaborate.
Okay, my quick elaboration is just that I just had no idea he had that secret final 3 alliance. He kept that so secret, and I just that surprised me, and I'm just impressed that he was able to keep that a secret.
Who do you wish you had a chance to work with but didn't?
Wish that I had to work with but didn't. I mean, I vibed with Debbie a lot before the game started, just hanging out on the porch. So I liked Debbie and would have worked with her. And we bonded a lot over all our physical ailments after the game started. So yeah, Debbie.
Let's say Reelfoot's having a returnee season. What's one player from your season that's not yourself you'd like to see come back and play again?
You know the answer I'm going to say. It's German. I want him to come back and win.
What would be one piece of advice you'd have for players going from Outlast as their first game to Reelfoot as their second game? Survivor game. I know you played a mole game in the middle.
Yes. Yeah, well, I was out first. So did I really play? I mean,
it's the mole game. There's so much luck in those early rounds, so you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, true. Advice. Probably to pace yourself, because I feel like Outlast, it's like, as you said, like when I was halfway through Reelfoot, I was in the final tribal council for Outlast. So I think I was just emotionally and physically like burnt out. I was going so hard. So I was just like, make the merge. And the merge came and I was like, I lost a lot of my steam. So pace yourself emotionally and physically, because it's like twice as long.
Mutiny advantages. Love them or hate them?
I love them. I want to get one in my next game and play it and play it for myself. Never played it for myself.
What was your favorite challenge in Reelfoot?
Okay. I think the one, favorite as in the most epic was me and Shauna holding the block together. I think that moment was really epic. Like literally, like she carried me through. I don't know if it was clear, but me and her were holding the most weight out of anybody left.
You sacrificed your toes.
Yes, I literally sacrificed part of my toenail permanently. I had like the nail matrix burnt off with acid. So
wow.
Yeah, I know. I signed a waiver, as they said. So I have no, I can't complain or sue them or anything. Just kidding. I would never do that. Well, I'm complaining, but
This is a podcast. You're allowed to complain as much as you want.
I think that was really epic. Honestly, the horrible challenge that me and Charlie blew it with the the whispering, I didn't enjoy that. But when we were carrying, like it was supposed to be me, Charlie, and Tony carrying Melissa, and
Mhm.
Tony was so gassed that for a big portion of it, it was just me and Charlie carrying Melissa, and like I just felt like me and Charlie were carrying more than we were supposed to, and we just beasted through. Melissa was giving us like all this encouragement. She was just like, one more step, you can do it, one more step. And it was like really like those words that like inspired me and carried me through, even though I lost both those challenges.
What's the favorite moment back at camp that maybe we hadn't talked about?
Moment back in camp when we made the commercial. I don't know if you've seen the commercial where we're saying, yes, we made the commercial. I think that was my idea, I would just like to say. And it was a funny moment where when I first introduced it, it was nice out. Everybody was energized, and everyone in the tribe was like, I want to be part of it. But then by the time Parker came with the camera, everybody was like, most people were in the shelter, either sleeping or resting. It was raining. Nobody wanted to do the commercial. And I basically begged people to do the commercial with me, to the point that I was like, jokingly, but kind of not jokingly, I was like, are y'all going to vote me out because I forced you to do this thing? Like, you're going to be like, oh, Hannah was really annoying making us to film this thing. But yeah, they did it, and they didn't vote me out because of it.
Would you vote out someone who didn't do the commercial?
No, but I was very sad that people didn't do it. And there was not the same enthusiasm when I first brought it up. So I was disappointed.
And finally, what has your takeaway been from this experience?
My takeaway is that I definitely had the experience of not being like the popular person or the person who wasn't invited to parties, and I'm totally fine with that. Like, I don't need to be the coolest or the most popular person in the room, but I don't think I've had the experience before of feeling, again, in the game, it's not like this now, but I haven't had the experience of feeling like dislike towards me before. More just ambivalence. And I think that was really, really hard for me emotionally. And so I just learned like that not everyone is gonna like you, and that's okay. And you have to live with that, especially in Survivor games. And though, conversely, I do not feel upset when people betray me or lie to me. I don't know. I feel very emotionally upset betraying other people, but I somehow I do have that feeling of, it's a game. Oh, well, like, you got me. Like, I hope next time, Charlie, you do lie to my face and let me get blindsided, because I would like the experience of getting blindsided. And
you say that now, but it kind of sucks. You're like, wait, what did I do wrong?
All right. Well, next time I'll talk to you if it happens, and we'll see.
I would ask you if you'd be playing more games in the future, but it sounds like you have had the opportunity to play one that hopefully we'll see video of in the next year to come.
Yes, I can't make any comments about it, but would love to talk to you about that again, because it was chaotic.
Well, Hannah, just thank you so much for your time tonight to talk to your game. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And can we take a really quick picture also?
Yeah.
Like, can I just don't leave yet, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I won't leave. I'll stay here as I talk us out.
Okay, go for it.
And then, like, afterwards, once the stream ends, it'll still be ongoing. So
cool. Then I don't need to do that now. Okay, yes, thank you. Go for
That's a sneak peek behind the scenes for all those listening. But everyone who tuned in, thank you so much. This has been yet another deep dive interview from Surviving Reelfoot, the Decennium. There are 3 more interviews left. Charlie, German, and Sandra are coming up. I believe Charlie's is tomorrow evening, so get excited. And hopefully, even once this is wrapped up, this is not the end of Surviving Reelfoot, because we have episodes in the future. So you will hear back from me then, most likely. But Hannah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun. Like, I was so nervous, and this was just so fun. So thank you.
Mission accomplished then.
Yes.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.